It's on.
We say Shabbat Shalom to the whole entire Bayif of YAHUAH'S, all 12 tribes, wherever your feet are touching the soil on this yom. Peace and blessings to you and your house. That is to say, Shalom and Barakut to you and your entire house. Shabbat Shalom to the elder Ak, Yehuda. Shabbat Shalom to the younger Ak, Ephraim. Shabbat Shalom to the former Gentile, the former nation, the former stranger, the former foreigner, who is no longer estranged from the everlasting covenant, but having received the Ruach of adoption, the Ruach HaKadosh, and having been engrafted into the olive tree, and whereby now becoming a fellow citizen of YAHUAH'S, and now whereby privy to the same everlasting covenant and promise and inheritance that was given to YAHUAH'S and to YAHUAH'S alone. Shabbat Shalom to you, wherever your feet are touching the soil on this Kadush Yom. Shabbat Shalom, peace and blessings, Shalom and Barakut to you and your entire house. Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. To those of you who are on YouTube, who will view this message later on, we're grateful that you have once again stopped by excuse me, that you have once again stopped by to, at least when you watch the message, it will probably be after the Shabbat, but nevertheless, we're grateful that you have elected to stop by and to spend your Shabbat with Yahuwah's remnant. We're grateful. We take nothing for granted. Barak Yahuwah. I am Daud ban Yahuwah, and this is my Aisha Ashiyah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you. Welcome. Shalom and Barakut. Peace and blessings to you, to your entire house, wherever your feet are touching the soil on this Yom. Barak Yahuwah. Well, I got good news and bad news. I don't know if it's good news or bad news to both of you who are on Zoom and to those of you who will watch this later on YouTube. I just said that because I really had nothing else to say at that particular moment. But for the past 4 or 5 months or so, no, actually past 7 months, Yahuwah has had us on the ancient path. I believe last week we were on Searching for the Ancient Path, part 38, Just Serve. Just Serve. While the title of this message is not Searching for the Ancient Path, it is regarding the ancient path and very relevant to the ancient path. It is the ancient path. However, it's not going to be entitled Searching for the Ancient Path. This message was originally, I thought, going to be spoken on this past 4th day, but we quickly saw as Yahuwah began to download into me and to give me precepts that it was going to be too long for a 4th day message. It was going to be much too long. And so Yahuwah has given me permission to speak it now on this Shabbat day. So if you are taking notes, previously on the previous 2 4th days, or commonly called Wednesdays, what man calls them, we had been discussing Pasakh preparation. Pasakh preparation. We are now, I think, less than 3 weeks away from Pasakh, and Abba has been speaking to us with respect to Pasakh preparation. The first message was entitled, Wash Your Hands, Ye Sinners, Pasakh preparation. The second message was entitled, Are You Not Ashamed? Are You Not Ashamed? Pasakh preparation. And they both were given to prepare his people and to get us in the correct mindset to partake of the offering, to partake of the Kadush offering, and so that we are what? So that we are discerning the body of the Hamashiach, who is our Pasakh offering. And so in this series, I don't like calling it a series, but for lack of a better term, in this series, this is going to be part 3 of 4. This is going to be part 3 of 4. Part 4 of 4, Yahuwah willing, will be spoken this coming 4th day or this coming Wednesday. And so if you are taking notes, the title of this teaching, of this message. And this is why, Kathy, I asked you to read that last verse again. That was really a precursor. That was a segue to the message. Barak Yahuwah, nothing is by coincidence in him. But if you're taking notes, the title of this teaching is A Sign Forever. A Sign Forever. Pasakh Preparation. A Sign Forever. Pasakh Preparation. A Sign Forever. Pasakh Preparation. To unravel this sign that Yahuwah is talking about, he is briefly spoken about it through his servant in the first two teachings, but he is going to really unravel that for us today and show us Pasakh unlike we've ever seen it before, and to give us a deeper understanding of it and a better appreciation for it, and so that we are no longer ignorant, and so that we absolutely know what Pasakh means and what it is that we are partaking of. So with that said, in order to unravel this, it's not a mystery. Abba has unveiled it for us. But in order to unravel it and to peel this onion back one layer at a time, we need to go back all the way to the beginning, to Bereshit. We need to go back all the way to the beginning. And if you're on YouTube, I've already told the Zoom family this, but if you're on YouTube, you no doubt have already seen the link of this video. So go to a comfortable place, get your whoopee cushion or a nice comfortable sofa, because in unraveling this mystery, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, and we have to line by line, precept by precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, allow Abba to open up our understanding as to what it is that he's trying to teach us through Pasakh. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. He has previously told us that in his instructions called Torah. Torah means instruction. Torah means instructions. But he has told us that his Torah is comprised of practical instructions that are designed to teach his people a deeper spiritual meaning or a deeper spiritual context of what he's trying to show us. And so that's what the Torah is about. It's practical instructions. And listen, that's the letter. But listen, I'm not discarding the letter. Don't go and tell anybody that told you to discard the letter. If you tell them that, you'll be lying. You'll be lying on me. You'll be slandering me because I'm not telling you that. We are to obey the letter. But we are to obey the letter from an understanding that it is intended to show us deeper spiritual matters. So now we're not to only understand the letter, but we're to understand the deeper spiritual matter in which the letter is trying to show us. And Yahuwah willing, Yahuwah is going to show us that this day about Pasakh. And so if you have your books, we're going to start at the very beginning, but we're going to start in the first book of Adam and Kua. We're going to start in the first book of Adam and Kua. Some of you, you may have it as the Forgotten Books of Eden, and it's going to be book 1 or part 1 if you have it listed that way. If you have the Sefer, in which it would be in a book entitled Bereshit, it's going to be entitled The Forgotten Books of Adam and Kua, book 1 or part 1. Part 1. And so as you are finding that, if you're going to follow along, as you are finding, and I'll give you a couple of minutes to find that while my Aisha is turning the pages as well. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. She probably already there. She got everything staged.
No, Barak Yahuwah.
Oh, you ain't staged yet? No, Barak Yahuwah. You got your refreshment station.
Barak Yahuwah, yeah.
You got your lozenges.
Yes, I do.
Barak Yahuwah.
Barak Yahuwah.
Barak Yahuwah.
Okay.
Barak Yahuwah. The Forgotten Books of Adam or Eden, book 1. In Bereshit is entitled the first book of Adam and Kua. And this is going to be, I believe, chapter 5, little one?
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. Chapter 3 of the first book of Adam and Kua, or the Forgotten Books of Eden. Chapter 3. We're going to start here. And we're going to kind of jump around in certain chapters in the Forgotten Books of Eden, or in the first book of Adam and Kua. We're going to jump around so as to lay the foundation of Pasakh. So as to lay the foundation so that when we move into the Torah, it's going to make better sense. This sign forever and Pasakh is going to make better sense as we jump around in these chapters to lay the foundation of Pasakh. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So the Forgotten Books of Adam of Eden, the first book, chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. Go ahead and read, little one.
Concerning the promise of the great 5.5 days.
Concerning the promise of the great 5.5 days. This is very integral in understanding the mystery of Pasakh. This is very integral. The great 5.5 days, or in other words, 5,500 years. I don't want to give it away. I'm going to let little one read. Come on, little one.
Elohim said to Adam, I have ordained on this earth days and years, and you and your descendants shall live and walk in them, until the days and years are fulfilled, when I shall send the word that created you, and against which you have transgressed, the word that made you come out of the garden, and that raised you when you were fallen. Yea, the word that will again save you when the 5.5 days are fulfilled. But when Adam heard these words from Elohim, and of the great 5.5 days, he did not understand the meaning of them. For Adam was thinking there would be only 5.5 days for him until the end of the world. And Adam cried and prayed to Elohim to explain it to him. Then Elohim, in his compassion for Adam, who was made after his own image and likeness, explained to him that these were 5,500 years, and how one would then come and save him and his descendants. But before that, Elohim had made this covenant with our father Adam in the same terms before he came out of the garden, when he was by the tree where Kua took of the fruit and gave it to him to eat. Because when our father Adam came out of the garden, he passed by that tree and saw how Elohim had changed the appearance of it into another form, and how it shriveled. And as Adam went to it, he feared, trembled, and fell down before Elohim, in his compassion lifted him up, and then made this covenant with him. And again, when Adam was by the gate of the garden and saw the cherub with a sword of flashing fire in his hand, and the cherub grew angry and frowned at him, both Adam and Kua became afraid of him and thought he meant to put them to death. So they fell on their faces, trembling with fear. But he had pity on them and showed them compassion, and turning from them went up to heaven and prayed to Yahuwah and said, Yahuwah, you sent me to watch at the gate of the garden with a sword of fire. But when your servants Adam and Kua saw me, they fell on their faces and were as dead. O my Adonai, what shall we do to your servants? Then Elohim had pity on them and showed them compassion, and sent his messenger to guard the garden. And the word of Yahuwah came to Adam and Kua and raised them up. And Yahuwah said to Adam, I told you that at the end of the 5.5 days, I will send my word and save you. Strengthen your heart, therefore, and stay in the cave of treasures, of which I have before spoken to you. And when Adam heard this word from Elohim, he was comforted with that which Elohim had told him, for he had told him how he would save him. That's it for 3.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So in chapter 3, we see that as a result of Adam and Kua partaking of the fruit, that they are now out of the garden. And Yahuwah makes a promise to them. He enters into a covenant, into an oath with them, in that in 5,500 years, that he was going to send his word. He was going to send his word, and that he was going to save him, both him and his seed. That he was going to deliver them, both him and his seed, in 5,500 years. He made an oath. He made an agreement. He made a covenant, an everlasting covenant with him, that in 5,500 years, that this would be accomplished. Now, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We're going to peel this back layer by layer, here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. What's the next chapter, little one?
Chapter 12.
Again, I told you we're going to skip around. We're going to skip around in the Forgotten Books of Eden. We're not going to read straight through. We're just going to read some relevant chapters so as to lay the foundation of a sign forever Pasakh preparation. We're now skipping over to chapter 12 of the Forgotten Books of Eden, the first book. Chapter 12 of the Forgotten Books of Eden, the first book.
How darkness came between Adam and Kua.
Listen, how darkness came between Adam and Kua. Listen, how darkness came between Adam and Kua. Read, little one.
Then Adam beat his chest, he and Kua, and they mourned the whole night until the crack of dawn. And they sighed over the length of the night in Mazai. And Adam beat himself and threw himself on the ground in the cave from bitter grief, and because of the darkness, and lay there as dead. But Kua heard the noise he made in falling on the ground, and she felt about for him with her hands and found him like a corpse. Then she was afraid, speechless, and remained by him. But the compassionate Yahuwah looked on the death of Adam and on Kua's silence from fear of the darkness. And the word of Elohim came to Adam and raised him from his death, and opened Kua's mouth that she might speak. Then Adam stood up in the cave and said, O Elohim, why has light departed from us, and darkness covered us? Why did you leave us in this long darkness? Why do you plague us like this? And this darkness, O Yahuwah, where is it before it covered us? It is because of this that we cannot see each other. For so long as we were in the garden, we neither saw nor even knew what darkness is. I was not hidden from Kua, neither was she hidden from me until now, that she cannot see me. And no darkness came over us to separate us from each other. But she and I were both in one bright light. I saw her and she saw me. Yet now, since we came into this cave, darkness has covered us and separated us from each other, so that I do not see her, and she does not see me. O Yahuwah, will you then plague us with this darkness? And that's the end. Oh, no, is it? Yes, it is.
Barak Yahuwah.
Barak, chapter 13. Is
Chapter 13, Forgotten Books of Eden. Book 1.
Then when Elohim, who was compassionate and full of pity, heard Adam's voice, he said to him, O Adam, so long as the good messenger was obedient to me, a bright light rested on him and on his host.
As long as the good messenger, he's speaking of Hasatan. He's speaking of Hasatan. As long as the good messenger was what?
Was obedient to him.
Was obedient to him, a bright light proceeded from him and his host. Read.
But when he transgressed my commandment, I deprived him of that bright nature.
I deprived him of that bright nature.
And he became dark.
And he became dark. He became darkness. He became dark. You got to understand this to understand the foundation of Pasakh. He became darkness. And thus he is what? He is called the Prince of Darkness. He is the sovereign of the reign of darkness. He is the sovereign of the reign of darkness. He was turned dark. He was turned into darkness. He is the prince of darkness. Read, little one.
And when he was in the heavens, in the realms of light, he knew nothing of darkness, but he transgressed, and I made him fall from the heaven onto the earth. And it was this darkness that came over him and on you, O Adam, while in my garden and obedient to me, did that bright light rest also. But when I heard of your transgression, I deprived you of that bright light, yet of my compassion. I did not turn you into darkness, but I made your body of flesh over which I spread the skin, in order that it might bear cold and heat.
I did not turn you into darkness. Because had I turned you into darkness, as she's getting ready to read, it would have been as though I had killed you. But he turned Hashatan, listen, into darkness. He turned him into darkness. He is the prince of darkness. He is the sovereign of the reign of darkness. He is the sovereign of the reign of darkness. Get this. This is the foundation of Pasakh. Read.
If I had let my wrath fall heavily on you, I should have destroyed you. And had I turned you into darkness, it would have been as if I killed you. But in my compassion, I have made you as you are when you transgress my commandment, O Adam. I drove you from the garden and made you come forth into this land and commanded you to live in this cave, and darkness covered you, as it did over him who transgressed my commandment. Thus, O Adam, has this night deceived you. It is not to last forever, but is only of 12 hours. When it is over, daylight will return. Sigh not, therefore, neither be moved, and say not in your heart that this darkness is long and drags on wearily. And say not in your heart that I plague you with it. Strengthen your heart and be not afraid. This darkness is not a punishment. But, O Adam, I have made the day and have placed the sun in it to give light, in order that you and your children should do work.
I have made the day and placed the sun in it to give light, in order that you and your children may go out to work. Read.
For I knew that you would commit crimes and transgress, and come out into this land. Yet I would not force you, nor be heard over you, nor shut up, nor doom you through your fall, nor through your coming out from light into darkness, nor yet through your coming from the garden into this land. For I made you of the light, and I will to bring out children of the light from you, and light to you. But you did not guard my commandment one day, until I finished the creation and blessed everything in it. Then, concerning the tree I commanded you not to eat of, yet I knew that Hashatan, who deceived himself, would also deceive you. So I made known to you by means of the tree not to come near him. And I told you not to eat of the fruit thereof, nor to taste of it, nor yet to sit under it, nor to yield to it. Had I not been and spoken to you, O Adam, concerning the tree, and I had left you without commandment, and you had sinned, it would have been an offense on my part for not having given you any order. You would turn around and blame me for it. But I commanded you and warned you, and you failed, so that my creatures cannot blame me, but the blame rests on them alone. And, O Adam, I have made the day so that you and your descendants can work and toil in it.
I have made the day so that you and your descendants can work and toil in it. Read.
And I have made the night for them to rest in it from their work.
I have made the night for them to rest in it for their work. I must do the work of my Father while it is still day. Night cometh, and when no man can work. Come on, read.
And for the beasts of the field to go forth by night and look for their food. But little of darkness now remains, O Adam, and daylight will soon appear.
And daylight will soon appear. And so here in this is chapter 13, Yahuwah begins to recount to Adam that Hashatan was a being made of light. And indeed, when you read the 28th chapter of YAHUAH'S, commonly called Ezekiel, we understand that Hashatan was a priest. He was a high priest, to be exact, who wore the breastplate of a priest, and who was on the mountain, the very mountain of Yahuwah, until pride consumed him from within. And he was, as we read in this chapter, he was turned into darkness. He was turned into darkness. Both him and his hosts were turned into darkness. However, he did not turn Adam into darkness. Had he turned Adam into darkness, it would have been as though he had killed him. Indeed, this is why Hashatan is called the prince of darkness. He is the sovereign over the reign of darkness. He is over the darkness. He is over the night. This is his realm. This is his dominion. He is the sovereign of darkness. He is the prince of darkness. He is the king over the kingdom, over the reign of darkness. Yahuwah goes on further to say in this chapter that, listen, Adam, this night ain't going to last long. It's only going to last for 12 hours. But I've given you 12 hours in the day. I've given the day. I've placed the sun in it for man to go out to do their labors, to go out to do their work until evening. When the evening comes, then that's when the beasts, the wild beasts of the earth, and this is when the reign of darkness go out to do their bidding. And this is when the beasts go out to do their hunting. But I've given you the day to work. See, we need to understand this, although this teaching isn't specifically about this, but it is in reference to this. We need to understand that the Shabbat day, Shabbat meaning what? To cease, desist, and rest from labor. This is what Shabbat means. It means to cease, desist, and rest from labor. Here and in other places in the text, he has given us the day when the sun is shining to go out to do our labor. Now, if he's giving us the day to go out to do our labor, and Shabbat means to cease, desist, and rest from labor, like our Father, because we must follow his example and not that of man and not of our own, like our Father, in the beginning he said, let there be light. And he separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And then came evening. Yes, it did. Then came evening. In other words, he did his work during the day. Yes, he did. And he ceased from his works at night. On the second day, he began. When the sun arose, he began his works. And he completed his works during the day. And when the evening came, he ceased from his works. This continued through 6 days. And then on the seventh day, when men would normally go out to do their works, to do their labors, he did not work. And he's called us to do the same thing. Don't go out to do your work during the time when you would normally be going out to do your work, during the time that I have prescribed for you to go out and to do your work. I have to bring this up because you've got to understand that there's a difference between day and night, and that Hashatan is associated with darkness. He was turned into darkness. He is the prince of darkness. He is the sovereign of the reign and the kingdom of darkness. And Yahuwah does not want us to have anything to do with darkness. Nothing to do with darkness. Absolutely nothing to do with darkness. Even this, what was just spoken through his servant, is laying the foundation of understanding Pasakh, of understanding a sign forever. Pasakh preparation. Come on, read, little one.
Chapter 14.
Chapter 14.
The earliest prophecy of the coming of Mashiach. Then Adam said to Elohim, O Yahuwah, take you my soul and let me not see this gloom anymore, or remove me to some place where there is no darkness. But Yahuwah Elohim said to Adam, indeed, I say to you, this darkness will pass from you. Every day I have determined for you until the fulfillment of my covenant, when I will save you and bring you back again into the garden, into the house of light you long for, in which there is no darkness. I will bring you to it in the kingdom of heaven. Again said Elohim to Adam, all this misery that you have been made to take on yourself because of your transgression will not free you from the hand of Hashatan, and will not save you. But I will, when I shall come down from heaven, I shall become flesh of your descendants, and take on myself the infirmity from which you suffer. Then darkness that covered you in this cave shall cover me in the grave. Then the
darkness that covered you in this cave shall cover me in the grave. This same darkness that covered you is going to cover me in the grave. Some of you ought to begin to understand what Pasakh is all about.
Thank you, Master.
This same darkness that covered you is going to cover me when I put on the flesh of your descendants. It's going to come over me when I am in the grave. This same darkness. We're going to talk about grave a little bit further down below in this teaching, but I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. You know, some who are watching YouTube, who are going to watch this later on, are saying to themselves, well, what about Yom Kippur, teacher? What about Yom Kippur? The Shabbat starts at night there. Sure it does. Sure the Shabbat starts at night on Yom Kippur, but if you read the same text that I'm reading, it says that Yom Kippur is celebrated the 9th and the 10th day. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. On the 9th day at evening, your Shabbat begins. On the 9th day at evening, when it becomes dark, your Shabbat begins. Why does the Shabbat begin on darkness, during the darkness on Yom Kippur? Because what? Yom Kippur is all about the atonement from darkness. The forgiveness of darkness. Sin is darkness. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's all about the deliverance from darkness, the forgiveness from darkness. And so the Shabbat begins at darkness on the 9th day, so as to darkness is also a representation of mourning. Yes, it is. That's why people wear black and dark colors when they're mourning. Yes, it is. It's a representation of mourning. And so on that 9th day, he has given us a time to reflect and to mourn on the darkness that we have enacted against him, to reflect upon it, so that what? On the 10th day, when the sun arises, when it becomes the 10th day, that you can bring that darkness to the light for forgiveness, to expose that darkness by the light, and to allow that light to destroy the darkness, so that you and I can receive forgiveness of the darkness that we have been operating in. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Come on, little one.
Then the darkness that covered you in this cave shall cover me in the grave when I am in the flesh of your descendants. And I, who am without years, shall be subject to the reckoning of years, of times, of months, and of days. And I shall be reckoned as one of the sons of men, in order to save you. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam.
Barak Yahuwah.
Chapter 15.
Chapter 15. Chapter 15.
Adam and Kua grieve over the suffering of Elohim to save them from their crimes. Then Adam and Kua cried and sorrowed by reason of Elohim's word to them, that they should not return to the garden until the fulfillment of the days decreed on them, but mostly because Elohim had told them that he should suffer for their Yeshua. That's 15. Now we skip into 21.
Chapter 21. And whoever that is who needs to mute the mic, please mute your mic.
Okay. Sister Valerie.
Okay.
Chapter
21.
Chapter 21. Line by line, precept upon precept, going back to the very beginning to unravel the mystery of Pasakh. Come on, little one.
Okay. Adam and Kua attempt suicide. Then Adam and Kua went in search of the garden, and the heat beat like a flame on their faces, and they sweated from the heat and cried before Yahuwah. But the place where they cried was close to a mountain, facing the western gate of the garden. Then Adam threw himself down from the top of that mountain. His face was torn and his flesh was ripped. He lost a lot of blood and was close to death. Meanwhile, Kua remained standing on the mountain crying over him, thus lying, and she said, I do not wish to live after him, for all that he did to himself was through me. Then she threw herself after him and was torn and ripped by stones and remained lying as dead. But the compassionate Elohim, who looks over his creatures, looked at Adam and Kua as they lay dead. And he sent his word to them and raised them and said to Adam, O Adam, all this misery which you have brought on yourself will have no effect against my rule, neither will it alter the covenant of the 5,500 years. That's 21.
Barak Yahuwah.
22.
Chapter 22.
Adam in a gracious mood. Then Adam said to Elohim, I dry up in the heat. I am faint from walking, and I do not want to be in this world, and I do not know when you will take me out of it to rest. Then Yahuwah Elohim said to him, O Adam, it cannot be now, not until you have ended your days.
Was that the end of 21, little one?
That's
when they threw themselves over the cliff?
Yeah. It was just that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Okay. You want me to start all over with 22?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to make sure. Okay. Then shall I bring you out of this miserable land. And Adam said to Elohim, while I was in the garden, I knew neither heat nor languor, neither moving about nor trembling, nor fear. But now, since I came to this land, all this affliction has come over me. Then Elohim said to Adam, so long as you were keeping my commandment, my light and my favor rested on you. But when you transgressed my commandment, sorrow and misery came to you in this land. And Adam cried and said, O Yahuwah, do not cut me off for this, neither punish me with heavy plagues, nor yet repay me according to my crime. For we of our own will transgressed your commandment and ignored your Torah, and tried to become Elohim like you, when Hashatan the enemy deceived us. Then Elohim said again to Adam, because you have endured fear and trembling in this land, languor and suffering, treading and walking about, going on this mountain and dying from it, I will take this on myself in order to save you. That's the end of 22.
Barak Yahuwah.
23.
Chapter 23.
Adam and Kua strengthened themselves and make the first altar ever built. Then Adam cried more and said, O Elohim, have compassion on me, so far as to take on yourself that which I will do. But Elohim withdrew his word from Adam and Kua. Then Adam and Kua stood on their feet, and Adam said to Kua, strengthen yourself, and I also will strengthen myself. And she strengthened herself as Adam told her. Then Adam and Kua took stones and placed them in the shape of an altar. And they took leaves from the trees outside the garden, with which they wiped from the face of the rock the blood they had spilled. But that which had dropped on the sand they took together with the dust with which it was mingled, and offered it on the altar as an offering to Elohim. Then Adam and Kua stood under the altar and cried, thus praying to Elohim, forgive us our trespass and our crime, and look at us with your eye of compassion. For when we were in the garden, our praises and our hymns went up before you without ceasing. But when we came into this strange land, pure praise was no longer ours, nor righteous prayer, nor understanding hearts, nor sweet thoughts, nor just counsels, nor long discernment, nor upright feelings. Neither is our bright nature left us, but our body is changed from the likeness in which it was at first when we were created. Yet now look at our blood, which is offered on these stones and accepted at our hands, like the praise we used to sing to you at first when in the garden. And Adam began to make more requests of Elohim. That's it for 23 and 24.
Chapter 24.
A vivid prophecy of the life and death of Hamashiach. Then the compassionate Elohim, good and lover of men, looked at Adam and Kua and at their blood which they had held up as an offering to him, without an order from him for so doing. But he wondered at them and accepted their offering. And Elohim sent from his presence a bright fire that consumed their offering. He smelled the sweet savor of their offering and showed them compassion. Then came the word of Elohim to Adam and said to him, O Adam, as you have shed your blood, so will I shed my own blood when I become flesh of your descendants. And as you died, O Adam, so also will I die. And as you built an altar, so also will I make for you an altar of the earth. And as you offered your blood on it, so also will I offer my blood on an altar on the earth. And as you sued for forgiveness through that blood, so also will I make my blood forgiveness of crime and erase transgression in it. And now behold, I have accepted your offering, O Adam, but the days of the covenant in which I have bound you are not fulfilled. When they are fulfilled, then will I bring you back into the garden. Now therefore strengthen your heart, and when sorrow comes over you, make me an offering, and I will be favorable to you. And that was in chapter 26.
Chapter 26.
A beautiful prophecy of eternal life and joy, the fall of night. Then Adam took Kua, and they began to return to the cave of treasures where they lived. But when they got closer to it and saw it from a distance, heavy sorrow fell on Adam and Kua when they looked at it. Then Adam said to Kua, When we were on the mountain, we were comforted by the word of Elohim that conversed with us, and the light that came from the east shone over us. But now the word of Elohim is hidden from us, and the light that shone over us is so changed as to disappear, and let darkness and sorrow come over us. And we are forced to enter this cave, which is like a prison, in which darkness covers us, so that we are separated from each other. And you cannot see me, neither can I see you. When Adam had said these words, they cried and spread their hands before Elohim, for they were full of sorrow. And they prayed to Elohim to bring sun to them, to shine on them, so that the darkness would not return to them, and that they would not have to go under this covering of rock. And they wished to die rather than see the darkness. Then Elohim looked at Adam and Kuah and at their great sorrow, and at all they had done with a fervent heart, on account of all the trouble they were in, instead of their former well-being, and on account of all the misery that came over them in a strange land. Therefore Elohim was not angry with them, nor impatient with them, but he was patient and forbearing towards them, as towards the children he had created. Then came the word of Elohim to Adam and said to him, Adam, as for the sun, if I were to take it and bring it to you, days, hours, years, and months would all stop, and the covenant I have made with you would never be fulfilled. But then you would be deserted and stuck in a perpetual plague, and you would never be saved. Yea, whether bear long and calm your soul while you live night and day until the fulfillment of days, and the time of my covenant is come. Slow down. Then shall I come and save you, O Adam, for I do not wish that you be afflicted. And when I look at all the good things in which you lived, and why you came out of them, then would I willingly show you compassion. But I cannot alter the covenant that has gone out of my mouth. Otherwise I would have brought you back into the garden. When, however, the covenant is fulfilled, then shall I show you and your descendants compassion, and bring you into a land of gladness, where there is neither sorrow nor suffering, but abiding joy and gladness, and light that never fails, and praises that never cease, and a beautiful garden that shall never pass away. And Elohim said again to Adam, be patient and enter the cave, for the darkness of which you were afraid shall only be 12 hours long, and when ended, light shall come up. Then when Adam heard these words from Elohim, he and Kuah worshipped before him, and their hearts were comforted. They returned into the cave after their custom, while tears flowed from their eyes, sorrow and wailing came from their hearts, and they wished their souls would leave their body. And Adam and Kuah stood praying until the darkness of night came over them, and Adam was hid from Kuah, and she from him, and they remained standing in prayer.
Barak Yahuwah. So here we understand that in the beginning, Adam knew nothing of darkness. He knew nothing of day and night. He only knew light. He knew nothing of darkness. But because of the fall, he then was exposed to darkness. And we understand that Hashatan was created as a being of light, but he was turned into darkness. He was turned into darkness. And this same darkness that Adam hated, Hashatan was turned into this darkness. And Adam, which means mankind, which means man. Adam, which means man, and by extension, mankind. Male and female, he created them. He created mankind. Adam, which means mankind, hated the darkness. He hated it. And thus Yahuwah, in his everlasting compassion, he comes to his son, his firstborn son, Adam, and encourages him and comforts him and tells him that this darkness is not going to last forever, that I am making a covenant with you. I am making an everlasting covenant. I am giving you my word. I am entering into an oath with you that in 5,500 years that I am going to deliver you from this darkness and bring you back into my light. Oh, some of you need to understand already. In 5,500 years, I'm going to deliver you from this darkness that you hate, in which Hashatan was turned into literal darkness. He is the prince of darkness. He is the servant of the reign of darkness. In 5,500 years, I'm going to come and put on flesh, and I am going to deliver you from this darkness and bring you back into my marvelous light. Barak Yahuwah, a sign forever, a sign forever. Pasakh preparation. Come on, read, little one.
Chapter 43.
Chapter 43.
The devil attempts arson.
Mm-hmm.
Then Adam and Kua were afraid and stood still. And Adam said to Kua, "What is that fire by our cave? We have done nothing in it to cause this fire. We neither have bread to bake therein, nor broth to cook there. As to this fire, we have never known anything like it, neither do we know what to call it. But ever since Elohim sent the Karub with a sword of fire that flashed and lightened in his hand, from fear of which we fell down and were like corpses, have we not seen the like. But now, O Kua, behold, this is the same fire that was in the Karub's hand, which Elohim has sent to keep the cave in which we live. O Kua, it is because Elohim is angry with us and will drive us from it. O Kua, we have again transgressed his command in that cave, so that he sent this fire to burn around it and to prevent us from going into it. If this be really so, O Kua, where shall we live? And where shall we flee from before the face of Yahuwah? Since in regard to the garden he will not let us live in it, and he has deprived us of the good things thereof. But he has placed us in this cave in which we have borne darkness, trials, and hardships, until at last we have found comfort therein. But now that he has brought us out into another land, who knows what may happen in it? And who knows but that the darkness of that land may be far greater than the darkness of this land? Who knows what may happen in that land by day or by night? And who knows whether it will be far or near, O Kua? Where it will please Elohim to put us, may be far from the garden, O Kua, or where Elohim will prevent us from beholding him, because we have transgressed his commandment, and because we have made request of him at all times. O Kua, if Elohim will bring us into a strange land other than this, in which we will find consolation, it must be to put our souls to death and to blot out our name from the face of the earth. O Kua, if we are further alienated from the garden and from Elohim, where shall we find him again, and ask him to give us gold, frankincense, myrrh, and some fruit of the fig tree? Where shall we find him to comfort us a second time? Where shall we find him that he may think of us as regards the covenant he has made on our behalf? Then Adam said no more, and they kept looking, he and Kua, towards the cave and at the fire that flared up around it. But that fire was from Hashatan, for he gathered trees and dry grasses and had carried and brought them to the cave and had set fire to them in order to consume the cave and what was in it, so that Adam and Kua should be left in sorrow, and he should cut off their trust in Elohim and make them deny him. But by the compassion of Elohim, he could not burn the cave, for Elohim sent his messenger around the cave to guard it from such a fire until it went out. And this fire lasted from noonday until the break of day. This was the 45th day. Chapter 44.
Chapter 44.
The power of fire over man. Okay. Yet Adam and Kua were standing and looking at the fire and unable to come near the cave from their dread of the fire. And Hashatan kept on bringing trees and throwing them into the fire until the flames of the fire rose up on high and covered the whole cave, thinking as he did in his own mind to consume the cave with much fire. But the messenger of Yahuwah was guarding it, and yet he could not curse Hashatan, nor injure him by word, because he had no authority over him, neither did he take to doing so with words from his mouth. Therefore the messenger tolerated him without saying one bad word, until the word of Elohim came, who said to Hashatan, "Go away from here once before you deceive my servants, and this time you seek to destroy them. Were it not for my compassion, I would have destroyed you and your host from off the earth, but I have had patience with you. until the end of the world. Then Hashatan fled from before Yahuwah, but the fire went on burning around the cave like a coal fire in the whole day, which was the 46th day Adam and Kuah had spent since they came out of the garden. And when Adam and Kuah saw that the heat of the fire had somewhat cooled down, they began to walk toward the cave to get into it as they usually did. But they could not by reason of the heat of fire. Then they both began crying because of the fire that separated them from the cave, and that came towards them burning, and they were afraid. Then Adam said to Kuah, "See this fire which we have a portion in us, which formerly yielded to us, but no longer does so, now that we have transgressed the limit of creation and changed our condition, and our nature is altered. But the fire is not changed in its nature, nor altered from its creation. Therefore it now has power over us, and when we come near it, it scorches our flesh." Chapter 45.
Chapter 45.
Why Hashatan didn't fulfill his promises. Description of Shaul. Then Adam rose and prayed to Elohim, saying, "See, this fire has separated us from the cave in which you have commanded us to live. But now, behold, we cannot go into it." Then Elohim heard Adam and sent his word that said, "O Adam, see this fire, how different the flame and heat thereof are from the garden of delights and of the good things in it. When you were under my control, all creatures yielded to you. But after you have transgressed my commandments, they all rise over you." Elohim said again to him, "See, O Adam, how Hashatan has exalted you. Has he deprived you of Elohim? He has deprived you of Elohim and of an exalted state like me, and has not kept his word to you, but has after all become your enemy. He is the one who made this fire in which he meant to burn you in Kuah. Why, O Adam, has he not kept his agreement with you? Not even one day, but has deprived you of the esteem that was on you when you yielded to his command. Do you think, Adam, that he loved you when he made this agreement with you, or that he loved you and wished to raise you on high? But no, Adam, he did not do all that out of love to you, but he wished to make you come out of light into darkness, and from an exalted state to degradation, from esteem to abasement, from joy to sorrow, and from rest to fasting and fainting." Elohim also said to Adam, "See this fire kindled by Hashatan around your cave. See this wonder that surrounds you, and you know that it will encompass about both you and your descendants when you obey his commands, that he will plague you with fire, and that you will go down into Sheol after you are dead."
And so you will go down this same fire that is around this cave. This same fire, when you die, Adam, and you go down, listen, when you go down into the darkness of Shaul, when you go into the darkness of the pit, when you go into the darkness of the grave, this same fire that is surrounding your cave is going to encompass you there when you die and go there, because you obeyed him and not me. Because you obeyed him, his voice and not my voice, this same fire that is encompassing this cave, when you and Kuah and your descendants die, you going and you go down to the darkness of the pit. This same fire is going to encompass you there. Read, little one.
"Then you will see the burning of his fire that will be burning around you, and likewise your descendants. You will not be delivered from it until my coming."
Until my coming.
Just like you cannot go into your cave right now because of the great fire around it. Not until my word comes and makes a way for you on the day my covenant is fulfilled. There's no way for you at present to come from this life to rest. Not until my word comes. Who is my word? Then he will make a way for you, and you shall have rest. Then Elohim called with his word to the fire that burned around the cave, that it split itself in half until Adam had gone through it. Then the fire parted itself by Elohim's order, and a way was made for Adam, and Elohim withdrew his word from Adam.
So this same fire, Adam, that has encompassed this cave, this same fire, when you die, both you and your descendants, when you die, you're going to be brought down to the darkness of Shaul, to the darkness of Sheol, and this same fire is going to encompass you there, and you are going to remain there. You are going to remain there until the days of the covenant has been fulfilled. But when the days of the covenant has been fulfilled, I myself am going to deliver you. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he's just laying the foundation of Pasakh. I myself am going to come into this darkness and deliver you, Adam, and your descendants. I am going to come into this darkness and deliver you, because I promised you. I've given you a promise. I've given you an oath. I've entered into an everlasting covenant with you that at the end of 5,500 years, I am going to deliver you from this darkness. Come on, read, little one.
Chapter 59.
Chapter 59.
Eighth apparition of Hashatan to Adam and Kua. But Hashatan, the hater of all good, did not allow them to finish their prayers, for he called to his host, and they came, all of them. Then he said to them, since Adam and Kua, whom we deceive, have agreed to pray to Elohim night and day, and to beg him to deliver them, and since they will not come out of the cave until the end of the 40th day, and since they will continue their prayers that they have both agreed to do, that he will deliver them out of our hands and restore them to their former state, see what we shall do to them. And his host said to him, power is yours, O our master, to do what you will. Then Hashatan, great in wickedness, took his host and came into the cave in the 13th night of the 40 days and 1. And he beat Adam and Kua until he left them dead.
And he beat them until he left them dead, because he had a right to beat them and leave them as dead. He had a right to do it. Yes, he did, because Adam obeyed him. He had a right to come in there and beat him. Read, little one.
Then came the word of Elohim to Adam and Kua, who raised them from their suffering. And Elohim said to Adam, be strong and be not afraid of him who has just come to you. But Adam cried and said, where were you, O my Elohim, that they should punish me with such blows, and that this suffering should come over us, over me, and over Kua your handmaiden? Then Elohim said to him, O Adam, see, he is your master.
See, he is your what?
Your master.
See, is your what?
Your master.
He is your master. He is your master. He is over you. He is the rule over you now. He is your master now. I'm not going to get ahead. We've got more to cover. But here, Yahuwah says that he is your master now. You obeyed him and not my voice. He is your master. And he is what? He is the prince of darkness. Yes, he is. He is the prince of darkness. He is the sovereign. He is the king over the reign of darkness. He is darkness. He was turned into darkness. He is darkness. And now this darkness is your master now. Come on, read, little one.
He is master and master of all you have. He who said he would give you divinity, where is this love for you? And where is the gift he promised? Did it please him just once, O Adam, to come to you, comfort you, strengthen you, rejoice with you, or send his host to protect you, because you have obeyed him and have yielded to his counsel and have followed his commandment and transgressed mine? Then Adam cried before Yahuwah and said, O Yahuwah, because I transgressed a little, you have severely punished me in return for it. I asked you to deliver me out of his hands, or else have pity on me and take my soul out of my body now in this strange land. Then Elohim said to Adam, if only there had been this sighing praying before you transgressed, then would you have rest from the trouble in which you are now. But Elohim had patience with Adam and let him and Kua remain in the cave until they had fulfilled the 40 days. But as to Adam and Kua, their strength and flesh withered from fasting and praying, from hunger and thirst, for they had tasted neither food or drink since they left the garden, nor were the functions of their bodies yet settled. And they had no strength left to continue in prayer from hunger until the end of the next day, to the 40th. They were fallen down in the cave, yet what speech escaped from their mouths was only in praise. Chapter 68.
Chapter 68. We're almost done with laying this foundation in the forgotten books in the first book of Adam and Kua. We're going to read chapter 68 and 69, and then we're done with this, and then we can move forward. chapter 68 of the Forgotten Books of Adam and Kua, chapter, the first book rather, the first book of the first book of Adam and Kua, chapter 68. Barak Yahuwah. Go ahead, little one.
How destruction and trouble is of Hashatan when he is the master. Adam and Kua established the custom of worship. Then Elohim looked at Adam and Kua and at what had come over them from Hashatan and how he had made them perish. Elohim therefore sent his word and raised up Adam and Kua from their state of death. Then Adam, when he was raised, said, O Elohim, you have burnt and taken from us the wheat you have given us, and you have emptied out the bucket of water. And you have sent your messengers who have caused us to lose our way from the wheat field. Will you make us perish? If this be from you, O Elohim, then take away our souls, but punish us not. Then Elohim said to Adam, I did not burn down the wheat, and I did not pour the water out of the bucket, and I did not send my messenger to lead you astray. But it is Hashatan, your master, who did it. He to whom you have subjected yourself.
Hashatan, your what?
Your master.
Your what?
Your master.
Your master. Hashatan was his master. Was his master. Read.
To whom you have subjected yourself, my commandment being meanwhile set aside. He it is who burnt down the wheat and poured out the water, and who has led you astray. And all the promises he has made you were just a trick, a deception, and a lie. But now, O Adam, you shall acknowledge my good deeds done to you. And Elohim told his messengers to take Adam and Kua and to bear them up to the field of wheat, which they found as before with a bucket full of water. There they saw a tree and found on it solid manna, and wondered at Elohim's power. And the messengers commanded them to eat of the manna when they were hungry. And Elohim admonished Hashatan with a curse not to come again and destroy the field of wheat. Then Adam and Kua took of the wheat and made of it an offering, and took it and offered it up on the mountain, the place where they had offered up their first offering of blood. And they offered this offering again on the altar they had built at first. And they stood up and prayed and besought Yahuwah, saying, Thus, O Elohim, when we were in the garden, our praises went up to you like this offering, and our innocence went up to you like incense. But now, O Elohim, accept this offering from us, and do not turn away, deprived of your compassion. Then Elohim said to Adam and Kua, Since you have made this offering and have offered it to me, I shall make it my flesh when I come down on earth to save you. And I shall cause it to be offered continually on an altar, for forgiveness and for compassion, for those who partake of it duly. And Elohim sent a bright fire over the offering of Adam and Kua, and filled it with brightness, favor, and light, and the Ruach HaKadosh came down on that offering. Then Elohim commanded a messenger to take fire tongues like a spoon, and with it to take an offering and bring it to Adam and Kua.
So here he says, I'm going to come down and put on flesh, and I am going to offer my own flesh for you. And it's going to be as an offering continually for those who duly partake of it. Unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you have no part in me. Unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you have no part in me. And partaking of the flesh and the blood is a part of the Pasakh, of the Pasakh celebration. The Christians call it communion, but it's more accurately called the Master's Supper. And so here he says, I'm going to offer my flesh, and it's going to be offered continually, and it's going to be given, set apart for those. It's going to go up continually. It's going to be set apart for those who partake of it duly. Go ahead, little one.
And the souls of Adam and Kua were brightened, and their hearts were filled with joy and gladness, and with the praises of Elohim. And Elohim said to Adam, This shall be to you a custom to do so when affliction and sorrow come over you. But your deliverance and your entrance into the garden shall not be until the days are fulfilled, as agreed between you and me.
5,500 years. Those you are not going to come back into the reign of light. You're not going to come out of darkness into the reign of light until 5,500 years. When I have come down and offered my flesh on an altar of earth for you. Read, little one.
Were it not so, I would have compassion and pity for you, bring you back to my garden and to my favor, for the sake of the offering you have just made to my name. Adam rejoiced at these words which he heard from Elohim, and he and Kua worshipped before the altar to which they bowed, and then went back to the cave of treasures. And this took place at the end of the 12th day after the 40th day. From that time, Adam and Kua came out of the garden, and they stood up the whole night praying until morning, and they went out of the cave. Then Adam said to Kua with joy of heart, because of the offering they had made to Elohim, and that had been accepted of him, let us do this 3 times every week, on the 4th day of the week, on the preparation day, and on the Shabbat, all the days of our life. And as they agreed to these words between themselves, Elohim was pleased with their thoughts and with the resolution they had each taken with each other. After this came the word of Elohim to Adam and said, O Adam, you have determined beforehand the days in which suffering shall come over me.
You have determined beforehand the days in which suffering shall come over me. Read.
When I am made flesh.
When I am made flesh.
For they are the 4th day of the week.
For they are the 4th day of the week. Hold. This is why the Passover, the Pasakh, must always be on the 4th day of the week, because this is the day that he came and suffered. If it's not on the 4th day of the week, it's on a wrong, abominable day. It must be on the 4th day of the week. Somebody real quickly, while little one has a thumb on that or has a finger on that, someone real quickly from the Zoom family, turn to Daniel 9:27 and read that as a precept to this. Daniel 9:27. Somebody real quickly.
And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the middle of the week, he shall put an end to the slaughtering and meal offering, and to the wing of abomination he shall lay waste, even until the complete end, and that which is decreed is poured out on one who is laid waste.
When is the middle of the week, Mishpaka?
Wednesday.
4th day. 4th day. This is a precept. He was offered on the 4th day of the week, and his offering did what? Put an end to the meal offerings and the grain offerings and the slaughter offerings. His offering satisfied all of that. It satisfied all of that in the middle of the week, on the 4th day of the week. And so Passover must always be celebrated. If it is to be celebrated properly, it must always be celebrated on the 4th day of the week. And if you're following the correct fixed calendar, it is always going to fall on the 4th day of the week, in the middle of the week. Read, little one.
And the preparation day.
And the preparation day. We understand that the 4th day of the week, which Passover falls on, is also what? Is a preparation day. It is a day before the Shabbat day of the 1st day of unleavened bread. So it is also a preparation day. Read.
But as to the 1st day, I created in it all things, and I raised the heavens, and again, through my raising again on this day will I create joy and raise them on high who believe in me. O Adam, offer this offering all the days of your life. Then Elohim withdrew his word from Adam, but Adam continued to offer this offering thus every week 3 times until the end of 7 weeks. And on the 1st day, which is the 50th, Adam made an offering as he was accustomed. And he and Kua took it and came to the altar before Elohim as he had taught them.
Barak Yahu.
69.
Chapter 69.
Just over here. Twelfth apparition of Hashatan to Adam and Kua, while Adam was praying over the offering on the altar when Hashatan beat him. Then Hashatan, the hater of all good, envious of Adam and of his offering through which he found favor with Elohim, hastened and took a sharp stone from among the sharp iron stones, appeared in the form of a man, and went and stood by Adam and Kua. Adam was then offering on the altar, and he began to pray with his hands spread before Elohim. Then Hashatan hastened with the sharp iron stone he had with him, and with it pierced Adam on the right side, from which flowed blood and water. Then Adam fell on the altar like a corpse, and Hashatan fled. Then Kua came and took Adam and placed him below the altar, and there she stayed crying over him, while a stream of blood flowed from Adam's side over his offering. But Elohim looked at the death of Adam. He then sent his word and raised him up and said to him, fulfill your offering, for indeed, Adam, it is worth much, and there is no shortcoming in it. Elohim said further to Adam, thus will it also happen to me on the earth, when I shall be pierced, and blood and water shall flow from my side and run over my body, which is the true offering, and which shall be offered on the altar as a perfect offering. Then Elohim commanded Adam to finish his offering, and when he had ended it, he worshipped before Elohim and praised him for the signs he had showed him. And Elohim healed Adam in one day, which is the end of the 7 weeks, and that is the 50th day. Then Adam and Kua returned from the mountain and went into the cave of treasures as they were used to do. This completed for Adam and Kua 140 days since their coming out of the garden. Then they both stood up that night and prayed to Elohim. And when it was morning, they went out and went down westward of the cave to the place where their wheat was, and there rested under the shadow of a tree as they were accustomed. But when there a multitude of beasts came all around them, it was Hashatan's doing in his wickedness, in order to wage war against their through marriage. Okay, that's it.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Now, I had little one read the excerpts from the first book of Adam and Kua so as to lay the foundation for a couple of different reasons. Because one, we needed to go back to the very beginning to understand what Passover is all about. Because as this message goes to the four corners of the earth, there are many who misunderstand the festival of Passover as being, in their words, a Jewish festival. A Jewish festival, not understanding that Passover is regarding the redemption of who? Of man, of mankind, of Adam. Now, we see this being played out in the nation of Yashar'al. We see this story being enacted and being played out in the nation of Yashar'al, who is what? Who is a representative, who is the representation of the remnant of mankind. Yashar'al being firstborn, Adam being firstborn. Yashar'al represents Adam. It represents the remnant of mankind. And so this is not a festival of the Yahudim. This is a festival for mankind. This is a festival for mankind, and not Easter, and not the worship of some fertility goddess and her resurrected son Tammuz. This is about Passover, about the redemption, about a promise, about an everlasting promise, an everlasting covenant, a sign forever, an everlasting covenant in which he made with his firstborn son Adam, and in which was passed down throughout the generations through firstborn sons until it reached Yashar'al, his firstborn son. And from there until it reached the Hamashiach himself, who came as we read here in the forgotten books of Eden, he came as the firstborn. He came as the only begotten. He came as Adam. And by extension, he came as Yashar'al, who is his firstborn, who is his only begotten. And so this is a festival for all mankind. For all mankind. If mankind desires to be delivered, mankind must engraft into Yashar'al, who represents the remnant of mankind, and do what Yashar'al does. And do what Yashar'al does. And so in the beginning, it was explained in the last week and week before that, it was explained that the Torah is comprised of practical instructions that are to teach us deeper spiritual matters. Deeper spiritual matters. And so now, as we go over Pasakh, Having established the foundation in the first book of Adam and Kua, some things now are going to make better sense. Some things are going to make better sense now that a foundation has been established, and we're now going to understand what the Torah, the practical instruction of Torah is trying to teach us in a deeper sense with respect to Pasakh. Barak Yahuwah. And so now if you have your scriptures, turn to Exodus of Shamut, the 12th chapter. Exodus Shamut, the 12th chapter. And we're going to read this chapter in its entirety. Exodus Shamut, the 12th chapter, in its entirety. Beginning at verse 1 of Shamut, Exodus, the 12th chapter, in its entirety. Read, little one.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this new month is the beginning of the new months for you. It is the first new month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Yasharal, saying, on the 10th day of this new month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father.
And we understand that this lamb is a shadow, a representation of the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth. This lamb is a representation of Yahuwah putting on flesh in order to come down and to save and to deliver his firstborn son, Adam, and by extension, his firstborn son, who is the representation of the remnant of mankind, namely Yasharal. This is a shadow of him keeping his promise, his oath, his covenant to come and deliver his firstborn from darkness. Come on, read, little one.
A lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings. According to each man's need, you make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new month.
That's interesting. Take it from the sheep or the goats. See, the sheep and goats are considered flocks. They both are considered flocks. So you see, a goat don't have to perish. A goat can remain among the flock if he just behave himself and learns to be domesticated. He can be delivered too. A goat don't have to perish. You don't have to be bumper to bumper goat on the broad road that leads to destruction. Our goats can walk on this narrow path too. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Loosen your neck. You can walk on this narrow path too. Come on, read, little one.
Then all the assembly of the congregation of Yasharel shall slay it between the evening.
Between what?
Between the evening.
That means that evening when it begins to become dark. Now, we understand the reason for this now. I pray that we do. Come on, read, little one.
And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the doorpost and on the lintel of the house where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire.
And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire.
With unleavened bread.
With unleavened bread.
With bitter herbs they shall eat it.
With bitter herbs they shall eat it. Now let's look at the practical effects. Let's look at the surface of this. Let's look at the letter. It says to slaughter a lamb, but we understand that we no longer slaughter any animals because there is one slain for us before the foundation of the world. But we do partake of the Pasakh meal. We do partake of the Pasakh meal on that night, on that night, on that night, on that night. We partake of the Pasakh meal and we eat it with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. The bitter herbs are to remind us of what? Of bitter bondage. It is remind us of bitter bondage. When we're eating the meal, the bitter herbs are to remind us of bitter bondage. This does not change. This is the letter that we still take part of, but there is a deeper spiritual context to what Yahuwah is trying to show us. Come on, read, little one.
Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water.
Yes.
But roasted in fire.
Yes.
Its head with its legs and its inward parts.
Yes.
And do not leave of it until morning.
Do not leave of it until morning. Now we're going to stop right here just for a second. Now we understand that Abba Yahuwah made a promise, made a covenant, made a sign forever with mankind, with Adam and Kua, and that in 5,500 years, that he was going to deliver him and his seed from darkness. He was going to deliver them from darkness. Darkness is representative of evil. Darkness is representative of death. Darkness is representative of the grave. Darkness is representative of the darkness of Sheol, of the pit. Darkness is representative of Torahlessness or lawlessness. And so this lamb, we understand, is slaughtered at night because why? He came to deliver us from darkness. He came to deliver us from the reign of darkness. He came to deliver us from the power of Hashatan, who has the power of death, and to deliver us into the reign of light. Literally for Adam right now. Literally for him. And so on the 14th evening, on the 14th day at evening, at night, this lamb is slaughtered as a representation, symbolic of delivering Adam, delivering his people, YAHUAH, who is the representation of mankind, delivering him from darkness. And none of this lamb is to be left until daylight, until morning, which is what? Which is the 15th day. It is not to be left, none of it is to be left until morning, until the 15th day. Why? Because that night, and we're going to get to it, that night, by my dam, by my blood, I'm going to deliver you from the reign of darkness in accordance with my promise. That's the purpose of this offering. I told you that from the very beginning, Adam. I told you that. That is the purpose of this offering, to deliver you from your master. Do you not understand that Hashatan is Pharaoh, the master? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is the master. I'm going to shed my dung. I'm going into darkness. I'm going to offer myself, and I'm going to deliver you from the reign of darkness. And you are to partake of this offering that night and leave none of it for the morning. Why? Because when the morning light comes, now you are to walk in light. You are to walk in the reign of light. You are to walk in unleavened. You are to walk in light. You are to walk in righteousness, because I have delivered you from the reign of darkness. Now you are to walk in unleavened. And this is why the 15th day begins at daylight, when the light comes. Symbolic of us being delivered from darkness. And now the 15th day, which is the first day of unleavened bread, we're now walking in righteousness. We're now walking in the light. We're now walking in unleavened. Oh, I pray that you get this. I pray that you get this. Adam has been set free from darkness. And now we are to walk in the light of unleavened. We're to walk in righteousness. This is what he's talking about. This is what he's talking about. Come on, read, little one. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Come on, read.
And do not leave of it until morning.
And don't leave of it until morning. There's no need for it in the morning, because there's light now. I've delivered you from darkness. Ain't no need of it when light comes. I have kept my promise and delivered you from the reign of darkness and transferred you into my marvelous light. Now walk in it. Walk in unleavened. Because in me there is no darkness. Indeed, Elohim is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If any man claims fellowship with him, yet walks in darkness, he lies and does not live the truth. I've delivered you from your master, from Hashatan. I've kept my promise. I've kept my promise to you and delivered you that night, from darkness, that same darkness that you hated, Adam, that you and Kua hated, that same darkness that Hashatan was turned into. He being the prince of darkness, he being the ruler, the king of the reign of darkness. I have delivered you from that. I have came, and in accordance with my promise, I have took on this darkness for you. I shed my dung for you. And so let none of this offering which was given for that purpose be left until the morning, because when the morning comes, Barak Yahuwah, now you are in my light. You are in the reign of light. You in the reign of light. Yes, a day starts at daylight. Yes, it does. The lamb is slaughtered on the evening of the 14th day, and on the 15th day at daylight, we walk in unleavened. We walk in righteousness because we've now been delivered from darkness. Come on, read, little one.
And what remains of it until morning, you are to burn with fire.
Yes.
And this is how you eat it.
Come on.
Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet,
Yes.
and your staff in hand.
Yes.
And you shall eat it in haste.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Pasakh of Yahuwah.
Yes.
And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night.
Oh, come on that night.
And I shall strike all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast.
Yes.
And on all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim, I shall execute judgment.
I'm going to execute judgment on all the Hashatans this night. I'm going to execute judgment on all of them this night. And my dumb, which breaks the contract, which satisfies the agreement that I made, they must honor. They must honor the dumb. They must honor the blood, the dumb on the doorpost, because it breaks the contract. It delivers you from his hands. He is now no longer your master, provided that in the morning time, that you ain't no longer taking up this Pasakh lamb. That in the morning time, you began to walk in the light of unleavened, of the unleavened path, of the ancient path of sincerity and truth. If you're still walking in darkness, you have no part of me. Hashatan is still your master. And you're spitting on the offering that I gave for you. You are spitting and walking on my grave. Because I came to deliver you from darkness, from his hand, to deliver you into my reign of light, so that now you can walk the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. And if you do so, I now am your master, Adam. I'm your master now. We are a servant of whomever we serve, of sin, of darkness, of unrighteousness unto death, but of righteousness, of unleavened, of light unto everlasting life. He's no longer your master, provided that you're walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. Come on, read, little one.
I am Yahuwah. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you.
Yeah.
And let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Mitzrayim.
Yes.
And this day shall become to you a remembrance. And you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahuwah throughout your generations.
Yes.
Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law.
Yes.
7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your houses.
On the first day you cause that leaven, that darkness to cease from your houses. You cause that darkness, that leaven to cease from your houses. Yes, you go out through your house and you physically remove the leaven, but you'd better understand what that leaven represents. It represents darkness. So not only should you be removing the leaven from your house, but everything that is in your house that is attached or attributed to darkness, you need to be removing from your house. Not only that physical house, but the spiritual house. You do not continue in darkness now that we have been delivered from darkness. You do not continue in leaven now that you have been delivered from leaven. You do not continue to dwell in Egypt. Thus he says, you are to never return to Egypt again. You are to not continue dwelling in Egypt now that I have delivered you from the land of sin, the land of darkness, from the reign of darkness into my marvelous light. You are not to continue in it. So remove everything in your house that is of darkness and remove all the leaven. But not only that house, but this spiritual house, this heart. Remove the darkness from your heart. If there is still darkness in your heart, then I have not delivered you from the reign of darkness. You are still operating in it. You are still operating in it. And the dawn, you have not been sealed by the dawn. You have not yet been sealed by the dog, by the blood, by the dalit mom. By the dalit mom. I ain't gonna get ahead of myself. We'll talk about this a little later. Come on, read, little one.
For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that being shall be cut off from Yasharal.
You are now walking in light. You are no longer walking in darkness. You do not no longer eat of darkness. You no longer eat of leavened bread. You are now to walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. You are to walk in the light of day. You're to walk in the light of day. We are children of the day. We're not children of the night. We do our works in the day so that our Father who is in Shamayim will be esteemed through us as our works are clearly seen by men. You're to walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. You're to walk in righteousness. You're to walk in the light as the first day of unleavened bread begins, when the light begins. Symbolic again of us walking in light, walking in righteousness, walking in truth. Read, little one.
And on the first day is a Kadush gathering. And on the seventh day, you have a Kadush gathering.
The first and seventh day of Shabbat days are Kadush gatherings. We still do this in accordance with the letter. Come on.
No work at all is done on them. Only that which is eaten by every being, that alone prepared by you. And you shall guard the festival of Matzah. For on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim.
Listen. Now, in accordance with the book of Numbers and in accordance with the book of Jasher, our people did not leave the land of darkness, did not leave the land of Hashatan, the kingdom of darkness, until it became light of day. They did not leave until the 15th day. The first day of unleavened bread is when they left. This is when they left. That night they were delivered from darkness. When daylight came, they walked away from darkness and began walking the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. They began walking in the light. Come on, read, little one.
And you shall guard this day throughout your generations as an everlasting law.
Yes.
In the first month, on the 14th day of the new month, in the evening you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the new month in the evening. For 7 days no leaven is to be found in your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened, that same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Yasharal, whether sojourner or native of the land. Do not eat that which is leavened in all your dwellings. You are not to eat unleavened bread. And Moshe called for all the elders of Yasharal and said to them, Go out and take lambs for yourself according to your clans and slay the Pasakh. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning.
Until when?
Until morning.
Until when?
Until morning.
Until the 15th day, when you are no longer in darkness. Now I've delivered you from the kingdom of darkness this night in accordance with my promise. Now when the morning comes, when the light comes, the 15th day, the first day of unleavened bread, you're to walk now in the light. You're to walk in unleavened and leave this place and leave darkness. We see the redemption of mankind, the promise that he gave to Adam, being played out in the Torah, being played out in the nation of Yasharal, which is the representation of the remnant of mankind, the representation of Adam. Come on, read, little one.
And Yahuwah shall pass on to smite the Mitzrites, and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the doorpost, and Yahuwah shall pass over the door, and not allow the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. And you shall guard this word as a law for you and your sons forever. And it shall be when you come to the land which Yahuwah gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. And it shall be when your children say to you, What does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, It is the Pasakh slaughtering of Yahuwah, who passed over the houses of the children of Yasharal and Mitzrayim, when he smote the Mitzrites and delivered our households. And the people bowed their heads and did obeisance. And the children of Yasharal went away and did so, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe and Aharon, so they did. And it came to be at midnight that Yahuwah struck all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, from the firstborn of Parah who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. And Parah rose up in the night, he and his servants, and all the Mitzrites, and there was a great cry in Mitzrayim, for there was not a house where there was not a dead one. Then he called for Masha and Aharon by night and said, Arise, go out from the midst of my people, both you and the children of Yasharal. Go, serve Yahuwah as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds as you have said, and go. Then you shall bless me too. And the Mitzrites were strong on the people to hasten to send them away out of the land.
So we hear now the firstborn of Mizraim who do not have the dam, the blood on their doorposts. For all the firstborn of Egypt, they died. Yahuwah sends the destroyer. He sent the destroyer to kill them. He sent the destroyer to kill them whom he had a legal right to. Whom he had a legal right to. We understand, as we're going to read another precept in the book of Jubilees, that the destroyer is Hashatan. The destroyer is Hashatan. He is Pharaoh. He is the master of Egypt, and he has the power of death in his hands. And he has the authority to kill those whom are subjected to him, whom he is the master of. But to those whom he is not the master of, whom have the dam, whom have the sign, he cannot touch. Now we understand that dam in the Abarit, blood in the Abarit is dam, and it is comprised of dalet and mam. Dalet means door, mam means water. Water is always representative or a representation of spirit. And so this is how Yahuwah what? Delivers us from the reign of darkness, via sending his Ruach to us, via giving us his Ruach, implanting his Ruach in us, whereby now the Son sets us free from Pharaoh. The Son sets us free from Egypt, because when the Ruach comes into us, we are no longer under any obligation to obey Hashatan, making him our master. Now we walk in Ruach and in truth. We walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. We walk in the light because Yahuwah is our master, having written his Torah upon our hearts via his righteous Ruach HaKadosh. Read, little one.
To hasten to send them away out of the land, for they said, We are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Yasharal had done according to the word of Masha. And they had asked from the Mitzrites objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And Yahuwah gave people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites, so that they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mitzrites. And the children of Yasharal set out for Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot beside the little ones. And a mixed multitude went with them too, also flocks and herds, very much livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Mitzrayim, for it was not leavened, since they were driven out of Mitzrayim, and had not been able to delay, nor had they prepared food for themselves. And the sojourn of the children of Yasharal, who lived in Mitzrayim, was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of the 430 years, on that same day it came to be that all the divisions of Yahuwah went out from the land of Mitzrayim. It is a night of watches unto Yahuwah, for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. This is that night of watches unto Yahuwah, for all the children of Yasharal throughout their generations. And Yahuwah said to Masha and Aharon, This is the law of the Pasakh. No son of a stranger is to eat it. But any servant a man has brought for silver, when you have circumcised him, then let him eat of it. A sojourner and a hired servant does not eat of it. It is eaten in one house. You are not to take any of the flesh outside the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. All the congregation of Yasharal are to perform it. And when a stranger sojourns with you and shall perform the Pasakh to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and perform it. And he shall be as a native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it. There is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. And all the children of Yasharal did as Yahuwah commanded Masha and Aharon, so they did. And it came to be on that same day that Yahuwah brought the children of Yasharal out of the land of Mitzrayim according to their divisions.
Barak Yahuwah. Now let me go back and address some things. Barak Yahuwah. I didn't hear a little one read, but somewhere in there it speaks of the blood being a sign forever. Being a sign forever. And understanding the Hebrew word for sign is A'uf. A'uf. It is comprised of the Hebrew letters or Abarite letters Aleph, U, and Ta. Aleph, U, and Ta. We understand that Yahuwah is the Aleph and the Ta. He is the Aleph and the Ta. Aleph, it means an ox or power. It's represented by an ox or power. The U is represented by a tent peg or a nail or something that affixes and joins. The Ta is always representative of covenant. It is always representative of covenant. And so in the Dam, being a sign forever, we see that this is the Dam of the everlasting covenant that Yahuwah made with Adam. He said, I'm going to come and shed my blood, and I'm going to deliver you from the kingdom of darkness and bring you back into my marvelous light. Now, this occurred for Adam in 5,500 years. But here in this first Pasakh, what we are seeing is this being played out right before our eyes. It's being played out right before the eyes of Hashatan, right before the eyes of the principalities, who had no idea what was being played out here. They had no idea this story, these instructions in which they were carrying out. He had no idea what it meant and what it was a shadow of. It is a shadow being played out of Yahuwah keeping his promise, the covenant that he made with Adam, and that in 5,500 years that he was going to come and offer his blood and deliver him from the reign of darkness and bring him back into the garden and bring him back into his marvelous light. For you and I, when this sign is written upon our hearts, is written upon the doorposts of our hearts, and written upon the doorposts of our minds, we too are now delivered from the reign of darkness into his marvelous light. Because again, as his Ruach is in us, and as his Ruach writes the Torah upon our heart, whereby giving us a love for Torah and a willingness to obey Torah and a willingness to now walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. You see, this is not just about some feast day. We are supposed to walk unleavened now all the time. So really and truthfully, we should not even have to talk about Pasakh preparation, because if you have truly been transferred from darkness to light, you should already be walking in the light of unleavened all the time. All the time. This is the ancient path. We should automatically be already walking in light, walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth, if we have truly been converted, if he has truly circumcised our hearts, if he has truly written his Torah upon our hearts, if his Ruach is truly in us, then we should automatically be already walking the unleavened path of sincerity and truth, and not simply on Passover partaking of some matzah bread. It's not about that. He has now delivered us. He has delivered us, mankind, from the reign of darkness and brought us into his marvelous light. And we are to walk this way all the time. If we continue to walk in darkness, again, we're spitting on his sacrifice. We're trampling on his grave. And we're still in Egypt. And Hashatan is still our master. And he still, at that stage, will still have the power of death over you. He will still have the power of death over you. And so this is the enactment. Pasakh is the enactment in the Torah in terms of the letter. It is the enactment which shows us a deeper spiritual meaning. It is the enactment. It is a shadow of Yahuwah keeping his promise and delivering Adam literally going down to the pit of Sheol, literally delivering him, bringing him out of darkness and bringing him into his marvelous light, bringing him back into the leaven path of sincerity and truth. Further down it says that no stranger can partake of the Pasakh unless he or she be circumcised. I believe it was the Wednesday before last, or the fourth day before last, that Yahuwah revealed to us that the circumcision is also a sign. It is a sign of the everlasting covenant that Yahuwah made with Adam and Kua. But not the circumcision of the flesh, but rather the circumcision of the heart. I'm not going to go over that again. You should already still have that fresh in your memory. But those skins, the skins that Yahuwah made, they were not made with hands that would use to cover nakedness. The circumcision being reminiscent or symbolic of covering nakedness, and uncircumcision being symbolic of nakedness. When we are circumcised, he covers our nakedness. And so the circumcision of the heart is symbolic, is a sign forever of the covenant, the everlasting covenant and promise that he made with Adam and Kua. And that in 5,500 years, he was going to come and deliver them from darkness. And this is why you see a mixed multitude coming out who had also been delivered from darkness, because he came for mankind. He came for mankind. It is being played out within the nation of Yashar'al. This story is being played out, Yashar'al being the representative of the remnant of mankind, and in Yashar'al, where his righteous Torah rests, he has given us the mandate to go out and teach this story, to mankind, to spread this Bashorah, and to teach them the Torah, being Torah made flesh to them, telling them the good news that Yahuwah has paid the price for you, that you no longer have to be a captive to the kingdom of darkness. You just need to accept the Dam, the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth. And so in this story, we see the redemption of mankind being played out, both of Adam and of Anush, both of the sheep and the goats. You see, Adam means mankind, but so does Anush. Anush also means mankind, but mankind in a more fleshly sense, and a more weaker, a fleshly sense. And so we see Adam and Anush being delivered here. We see Egyptian and Yashar'alim being delivered here. We see all of mankind being delivered here. And so one does not have to remain a goat. One does not have to remain an Edomite. One does not have to remain a descendant of Cain, a Cain. He too can come. He too or she too can come into the marvelous light of Yahuwah. Passover is for mankind. It tells the story of the redemption of mankind. It is a sign forever. The Dam is a sign forever of the everlasting covenant, the promise and the oath that he made to Adam and Kua, and that in 5,500 years he was going to come and deliver them. And he kept this promise. In 5,500 years he put on flesh. He put on flesh and he came. He came to the nation of Yashar'al, who is a representation of the remnant of mankind. And he was put to death. He was put to death. And what happened when he was put to death, little one? What precept we got next?
Yeah, Luke 23:44.
Luke 23:44. Luke 23:44. Luke 23, verse 44. Luke 23, verse 44. Luke 23, verse 44. Verse 44, read, little one.
And it was about the 6th hour, and
Yes.
there was a darkness all over the earth
Yes.
until the 9th hour.
Barak Yahuwah. And so we see here that darkness covered the entire earth. He came and died as the Pasakh lamb for the entire earth, for all mankind when darkness came. Why? He hung there from the 6th to the 9th hour when the whole earth was dark, because he was slain. The Pasakh lamb must be slain in the darkness, because this is symbolic of him delivering Adam, delivering mankind from the reign of darkness and bringing mankind back into his marvelous light. Bringing mankind back into his marvelous light. And so for those who say that this is just a Jewish festival, that is just for his chosen people, you lack understanding. You lack great understanding. This is the story of Yahuwah redeeming all of mankind back to himself within the house of YAHUAH'S. All are welcome. All are welcome. Passover is a mankind feast. It is a mankind feast. But man must bear the circumcision, the sign, the seal, and the mark of the everlasting covenant that he made with Adam and Kua. Because if you bear that circumcision, the circumcision of the heart, that means what? That you have become an adopted son, and you have been adopted into the household of YAHUAH'S and to the family of Yahuwah. And now you too can partake of the Passover feast, which is given for mankind. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This goes to the four corners of the earth. This Passover feast is for mankind. It is for mankind. It tells the story of a loving father redeeming his firstborn son and keeping his promise and bringing him out of darkness and back into his marvelous light. Read, little one.
Yes, Psalms 23:4.
Psalms 23:4. Psalms 23:4. We're going to pick this up now and read a little bit, because we don't want to delay this any longer. I'm going to say the verse and we're going to read it, and Abba will speak through me a little bit about it, and then we'll move on. But Psalms 23:4, read, little one.
When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
yes,
I fear no evil, for you are with me.
Yes.
Your rod and your staff, they comfort me.
What's that Hebrew word for death, little one?
Zalma'uth.
Zalma'uth. Zalma'uth. Zalma'uth. And what does it mean? It means deep darkness. It means deep darkness. And so here he's still uncovering this mystery of Pasakh. It means deep darkness. Death means deep darkness. The grave means deep darkness. Being delivered from the deep darkness of the pit. From the deep darkness of the pit. Again, Passover tells the story of a father keeping his promise, delivering his son from the darkness that he hated, and bringing him back into his marvelous light. Redeeming him from death, redeeming mankind from death, in which Hashatan had the keys of. He had the power of death, delivering us from darkness, delivering us from sin, delivering us from the kingdom of darkness, and bringing us back into his marvelous light. Come on, read, little one.
1 Peter 1:18 through 25.
1 Peter 1:18 through what?
25.
1 Peter 1:18 through 25. Listen here very carefully. 1 Peter 1, verse 18 through 25. Read.
Knowing that you are redeemed from your futile behavior inherited from your fathers, not with what is corruptible,
yes,
silver or gold,
yes,
but with the precious blood of Mashiach.
We've been redeemed and purchased from the hand of a harsh taskmaster, whom our father Adam sold us into servitude to. We've been redeemed from him. We've been redeemed from the kingdom of darkness by the shed dam of Yahushua HaMashiach. Come on, read, little one.
As of a lamb unblemished
yes,
and spotless,
yes, in accordance with the promise that he made to his son. Come on, read.
Indeed, before the foundation of the world,
yes,
but manifested in these last times for your sake, who through him believe in Elohim, who raised him from the dead and gave him esteem,
yes,
so that your belief and expectation are in Elohim. Now that you have cleansed your lives in obeying the truth through the root to unfeigned brotherly love, love one another fervently with a clean heart, having been born again, not of corruptible seed, but incorruptible, through the living word of Elohim, which remains forever, because all flesh is as grass, and all the esteem of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withers and its flowers fall away, but the word of Elohim remains forever. And this is the word announced as good news to you.
As good news to you, that in accordance with the promise I made to my firstborn son, I have redeemed you from darkness. I have brought you out of darkness, out of the darkness of death, out of the darkness of Shaul, and I have brought you back into my marvelous light. I have offered myself as your Passover lamb, the dumb, delivering you from death. I died for you. I took your place where you disobeyed the voice of the Father. I did not disobey the voice of the Father. I walked for 33.5 years and I lived perfectly, but I walked as you. I walked in your shoes. And so my death was counted as your death. And because I died as an innocent man, pity was shown on me and I was resurrected. But when I was resurrected, you were resurrected too, because I died as you. And thus, when you are immersed in my name, in my Kadosh name, you too die with me, and you are buried with me, and you are resurrected to the newness of life. And then I send down my precious Ruach, who is life, and now you are reborn. You are reborn to the newness of life. And now you are to walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth, never going back to the kingdom of darkness again, and never doing what the first Adam did. Never doing that again, but walking now in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. And you have no more excuses to walk now in leaven. No more excuses. I paid the cost for you, and I sent my Ruach to teach you and to guide you and to cause you to walk in unleavened, so that you are under no more obligation to obey the sinful desires of your wicked flesh. You have no more excuses now. You have no more excuses. Come on, read, little one.
Leviticus 25, 47 and 48.
Leviticus 25, verses
47 and 48.
47 and 48. Leviticus 25, verses 47 and 48. Read, little one.
Now when a sojourner or a settler with you becomes rich,
yes,
and your brother with him becomes poor,
yes,
and sells himself to the settler or sojourner,
yes,
with you or to a member of the sojourner's clan,
yes,
after he has been sold, there is a right of redemption to him.
Yes.
One of his brothers does redeem him.
One of his brothers does redeem him. And so with his own precious blood, with his shed dam being shed as the Pasakh lamb in fulfillment of the promise that he made to his son Adam, he came as Adam. He came as the brother of Adam. He came as his brother, and he redeemed his brother in accordance with the Torah. He redeemed Adam. He redeemed mankind. Passover is for mankind. Passover is for mankind. Yasha'al represents the remnant of mankind. Mankind must engraft into Yasha'al via Yahushua HaMashiach and do what Yasha'al does. This feast is for the earth. This feast is for mankind. Come on, read, little one.
Colossians 1, 12 through 13.
Colossians 1, 12 through 13. Come on, read.
Giving thanks to the Father who has made us fit to share in the inheritance of the Kadosh ones in the light.
Yes.
Who has delivered us from the authority of darkness.
Who is what?
Who has delivered us from the authority of darkness.
See, they didn't believe it. We hadn't read enough precepts for them. This is what this is all about. Delivering us from the reign of darkness. Delivering us from darkness. This is why the lamb is slaughtered in the darkness. This is a precursor of Yahushua going into darkness to deliver his son from darkness. We have been delivered from darkness and brought into his marvelous light. Delivered from the powers of the reign of darkness and brought into his marvelous light. Come on, read.
And transferred us into the reign of the Son of his love.
And transferred us into the reign of the Son of his love. Come on.
In whom we have redemption through his blood.
Yes.
The forgiveness of crime.
The forgiveness of crime. This is what Passover is about. Delivering us from Pharaoh, from darkness. Pharaoh is Hashatan. Delivering us from that darkness that Adam hated, and from the darkness that a lot of us still hate. Delivering us from that darkness and bringing us into his marvelous light. Come on, read, little one.
1 Peter 2, 9.
1 Peter 2, verse 9. 1 Peter 2, verse 9. 1 Peter 2, verse 9. Come on, read, little one.
But you are a chosen race,
Yes.
a royal priesthood,
Yes.
a Kadosh nation,
Yes.
a people for a possession,
Yes.
that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you
Uh-huh.
out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Again, this is about the fulfillment of the promise, a sign forever that he made to Adam, that in 5,500 years, and we see this being played out in the nation of Yasha'al, but that in 5,500 years, this darkness that you hate, and this master in whom you have subjected yourself to, Pharaoh, I'm coming to deliver you. And this darkness that you hate, I'm going to take this darkness on myself when I am in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. And I am going to deliver you from this darkness. And the next morning, on the 15th day, you're going to walk in my marvelous light. You're going to walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. Come on, read, little one.
1 Peter 3, 18 to 21.
1 Peter 3, verses 18 to 21. 1 Peter 3, verses 18 to 21. Come on, read, little one.
Because even Mashiach once suffered for crime,
Listen, because Mashiach also suffered once for crime.
the righteous for the unrighteous,
Listen, Adam for Anush, the righteous for the unrighteous. Goats don't have to die. Goats too can enter into life. He died for all mankind. Come on, read.
to bring you to Elohim,
To bring you to Elohim.
having been put to death indeed in flesh,
Listen, having been put to death in the flesh,
but made alive in the Ruach,
but made alive in the Ruach.
in which also he went and proclaimed unto the Ruachs in prison,
And which also he went to proclaim to the Ruachs in prison. I told you, he went into literal darkness to deliver his son Adam. He went down into Shaul to deliver his son. Oh, little one, won't he keep a promise?
yes, he will. Barak
He
Yahuwah.
keeps promises.
Barak Yahuwah.
He went down to Shaul and delivered his son Adam in accordance with his promise. This is about keeping a promise, being delivered from darkness and brought into his marvelous light. And this is why the Pasakh lamb is slaughtered at night. It is symbolic of delivering us from the reign of darkness, from the prince of darkness, and bringing us into his marvelous light. Come on, read, little one.
Who were disobedient at one time,
Yes.
when the patience of Elohim waited in the days of Noah,
Yes.
while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is 8 beings, were saved through water, which figure now also saves us. Not a putting away of the filth of flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward Elohim through the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach.
Barak Yahuwah.
Barak.
So as the lamb was slain at night, the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth, went down into darkness. He was slain in darkness. He hung from the 6th hour, from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. There was darkness on the earth, and at the 9th hour, he gave up his ruach. He gave up his ruach. And so, in like manner, as he hung there from the 6th hour to the 9th hour in darkness, when he died, he literally went into darkness, both of the grave and of the pit. He literally went into darkness in the fulfillment of his promise. He took on darkness and he went into darkness to go down and get his son, his firstborn son, Adam, which means mankind. He went down and got him and brought him out of that pit and brought him out of darkness into his marvelous light. Come on, read, little one.
You got Ephesians 4, 1 through 10.
Ephesians 4, 1 through 10. Ephesians 4, 1 through 10. Ephesians 4, 1 through 10. Come on, read, little one.
I call upon you, therefore, I, the prisoner of the master, to walk worthily of the calling with which you are called, with all humility and meekness,
Yes.
with patience, bearing with one another in love, being eager to guard the unity of the Ruach in the bond of Shalom, one body and one Ruach, as you also were called in one expectation of your calling, one master, one belief, one immersion, one Elohim and Father of all, who is above all, and through all and in you all. But to each one of us favor was given according to the measure of the gift of Mashiach. That is why it says when he went up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts to men.
Yes.
But what does he went up mean? Except that he also first went down into the lower parts of the earth.
He went down into the lower parts of the earth and he set the captives free. He set his son free. He led captivity captive. Come on, read.
He who went down is also the one who went up far above all the heavens to fill all.
To fill all. To fill all. So you need to understand what has happened now. You need to understand. For 5,500 years, Adam was held captive, and Adam, meaning mankind, was held captive in the darkness of Sheol, what man calls hell. He was held captive there for 5,500 years. But Yahuwah in flesh came and died as Adam and went into the darkness. He went into the darkness to set the captives free. The price having been paid to set the captives free. And so now, for those of us who have been transitioned out of the reign of darkness into the marvelous light of Yahuwah in this flesh, via his light being in us, via his Ruach being in us, even now, if he calls us home, if he calls us out of this world, we no longer have to go to that place of darkness. He has delivered us from darkness and brought us into his marvelous light. We no longer have to go there. Before the Hamashiach came, they had to go to that place of darkness. Even Abraham is spoke of in the rich man and Lazarus having gone to that place. He even went there, not in a place of punishment, but in a place of comfort. Yet he was there. We read the account of Samuel being called up by that witch, being called up from that place. All mankind before the 5,500 years had to go to that place. Now, with his Sheddam, with the Passover offering, with the Passover done, with the sign forever, mankind who was walking in his marvelous light, even if we die in the flesh, we don't have to go to that place anymore. We can be transitioned into his marvelous light, into what I believe is the third Shamayim called paradise. The third Shamayim called paradise. We no longer have to go to that place, provided that you are walking in unleavened, that you're not just partaking of a cracker, of a piece of bread, but that you are partaking in righteousness and walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. You are walking in light, and if you are already walking in light, then when you die, you're going to be transitioned to light and not to darkness. If you're walking in darkness, you're going to be transitioned to darkness. And those who die now, who are walking in darkness and are then transitioned to darkness, there is no going down and getting them. You see, hell, Sheol was created for the watchers. It was created for the messengers that left their abode. It was a place that Yahuwah has placed them unto the time of the final judgment. It was never made for mankind. It was made to imprison them unto the time of the final judgment. And so for those now who reject the offering of the Hamashiach and who continue in darkness, they go to that place until the time of the final judgment, when hell and the sea and the grave will give up their dead, and they will stand before the great judgment seat, the great white throne of Yahuwah. He's not going down to get them. He ain't going down to get them. They will remain there until the time of the great judgment seat. But for those who have been transitioned from darkness into light, even if we die, we are transitioned into his marvelous light. We're transitioned into comfort. We no longer have to go into darkness, because we are what? We are no longer children of the night. We're no longer children of the darkness. We're children of the day. We've been transitioned into his marvelous light because of his offering. And because of his promise to Adam. Because of his promise to Adam. Come on, read, little one.
We got 1 Corinthians 5, 1 through 8.
1 Corinthians 5, verses 1 through 8. 1 Corinthians 5, verses 1 through 8. How we looking for time, little one?
2 hours and 8 minutes.
1 Corinthians 5, verses 1 through 8. Come on, read, little one.
It is commonly reported that there is whoring among you, and such whoring as not even named among the nations.
It is commonly reported that there is whoring among you, and not even as is reported amongst the nations. Read.
So as one to have his father's wife.
So as one to have his father's life. This one is what? Is walking in darkness. He is walking in darkness. He's still held captive in Egypt. He is still a prisoner of the kingdom of darkness. He's having his father's wife. Come on, read.
And you have been puffed up and did not rather mourn, so that he who has done this deed be removed from among you. For I indeed, as absent in body but present in ruach, have already judged the one who did this, as though I were present. In the name of our master Yahushua Mashiach, when you are gathered together in my ruach with the power of our master Yahushua Mashiach, deliver such a one to Hashatan for destruction of the flesh, in order that his ruach be saved in the day of the master Yahushua. Your boasting is not good.
Your boasting is not good.
Do you not know that a little leaven?
Do you not know that a little leaven, that a little darkness
leavens the entire lump?
Leavens the entire lump.
Therefore cleanse out the old leaven.
Therefore cleanse out the old darkness so that you understand better.
So that
Go ahead.
So that you are a new lump.
So that you are a new lump. Come on.
As you are unleavened.
As you are unleavened.
For also Mashiach, our Pasakh, was slaughtered for us.
Yes.
So then let us celebrate the festival.
Let us celebrate the festival.
Not with old leaven.
Not with old darkness.
Nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness.
Nor with the darkness of evil and wickedness.
But with the unleavened bread of sincerity.
But with the unleavened bread of sincerity.
And truth.
And truth. And truth. If you have, see, this is the importance of having a circumcised heart, because this is the evidence that the Ruach HaKadosh dwells in you. And if the Ruach HaKadosh dwells in you, then the dam, the seal, the dam has been placed upon you, and you now have been delivered from darkness into its marvelous light. And if that is the case, then we are to be what? Walking in unleavened all the time. Walking in light all the time. We should not have to be talking about Pasakh preparation, because we should be walking in light all the time. So that is the question. Have you truly been transitioned from the reign of darkness into its marvelous light? That is a relevant question. That is a relevant question. Do you have his ruach? Do you have his ruach? Oh, we will know them by their fruits, and out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. He's been warning for 2 weeks not to partake of this Pasakh lamb if you are still living in darkness. If Hashatan is still your master, if you have not been delivered from the reign of darkness into his marvelous light, walking in unleavened, understanding the great price that has been paid, that he came down and put on flesh and died in our place, and died as a Passover lamb, and literally went into darkness to deliver his son from the darkness that he so hated. Don't partake of his lamb. Don't partake of the offering if you're still partaking in darkness. If you haven't been transitioned from the reign of darkness into its marvelous light. Don't you dare partake of the lamb. Don't you dare partake of the offering. Don't you dare partake of it. We need to be walking in unleavened all the time. All the time, the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. We are children of the day. We are not children of the night. We are children of the day, because we've been transitioned from the night to the day. We've been transitioned from leaven, from darkness to light, which is unleavened, provided that you bear the circumcision. You cannot partake of the feast without having the circumcision, showing as a sign that you have indeed been delivered from darkness into his marvelous light. Barak Yahuwah. What we got, little one?
We got Jubilees, chapter 48.
We're not going to read Jubilees for the sake of time.
Okay.
Jubilees 48 and 49, family, Ms. Parker, go back and read that. But it shows that Hashatan, he is the destroyer. He is the destroyer that's spoken of in Exodus 12. He is Pharaoh. As Abba has shown us, he is Pharaoh. He is the master of Masraim. He is the prince of darkness. He is the sovereign of the king of the kingdom of darkness. And this is what Egypt, this is what Masraim represents. And the deliverance from Egypt is a representation of being delivered from darkness into light. It is the fulfillment of the promise that Yahuwah made to Adam being manifested right before our eyes within the people of Yasha'al, within the nation of Yasha'al. And so for the sake of time, we're not going to read Jubilees 48 and 49. But that shows there that Hashatan is the destroyer. He is the destroyer. He is the power behind Pharaoh. He is the power behind Egypt. And there is a new Pharaoh coming, Ms. Papa. There is a new Pharaoh that's coming up out of the pit called Nimrod, and who is called the beast, and whom Hashatan is going to be the power behind him as well when this Pharaoh comes to rule Egypt. He is going to indwell this man. He is going to indwell him, and the earth is going to embark upon a time unlike it has ever seen before. Because the earth is given to earthly beings. It is given to earthly beings. It is given to flesh and blood. It is not given to Ruach. It is given to flesh and blood. So there are legalities at play. Just as Yahuwah uses earthen vessels in order to exercise his authority in the earth, the spirit realm, Hashatan, and demons and principalities must also use earthen vessels to exercise authority in the earth. Hashatan is going to indwell this man, and the earth is going to undergo a time unlike it has ever seen before. The scriptures tells us that if those days are not shortened, then no flesh will remain. There we are going to see the reign of darkness being manifested upon the earth. The earth is going to see Egypt enacted again, and a new Pharaoh is coming. A new Pharaoh is coming. And they're not unlike the first Egypt, when Yahuwah delivers that remnant, the remnant, not the remnant within the remnant, but the remaining remnant. When he delivers that remnant out from darkness, there's also going to be plagues on that Egypt. As we read, I believe, in the 11th chapter of Revelation, it talks about the plagues and darkness coming upon the beast's reign. No different than it came upon the first Pharaoh in the land of Egypt. There's nothing new under the sun. It's coming again. Pharaoh is coming again. Those who have not been yet transitioned from the reign of darkness into his marvelous light are going to have to deal with the reign of darkness when it is manifested. But for those who have been called out of darkness into his marvelous light, and this is another cause for celebration, but for those who have been called out of darkness into his marvelous light, he has not reserved them for wrath. He has not reserved them for darkness, because we are children of light. We are children of light. We are not children of the night. We are not children of darkness anymore. Come on, read, little one.
We got John 8, chapter 18 and 19.
John chapter 18 and chapter 19. And after that, I think we're going to read Revelation 21.
Revelation 12.
Revelation 12, I'm sorry. Okay. John 18 and 19, and then Revelation 12, and then we're finished. Barak Yahuwah. John 18 in its entirety, and John 19 in its entirety. Barak Yahuwah. Come on, we're rounding the corner.
Okay.
Come on, little one.
Having said these words, Yahushua went out with his taught ones beyond the Kadron Tarunt, where there was a garden in which he and his taught ones entered. And Yehuda, who delivered him up, also knew the place, because Yahushua often met there with his taught ones. Yehuda, then having received the company of soldiers and officers from the chief priests and the Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Yahushua, then knowing all that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, "Whom do you seek?" They answered him, Yahusha of Nazareth. Yahusha said to them, I am. And Yehuda, who delivered him up, was also standing with them. When therefore he said to them, I am, they drew back and fell to the ground. Once more he asked them, who do you seek? And they said, Yahusha of Nazareth. Yahusha answered and said to you that I am. If then you seek me, allow these to go, in order that the word might be filled which he spoke. Of those whom you have given me, I have lost none. Then Shimon Kapha, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. And the servant's name was Malach. Then Yahusha said to Kapha, put your sword into its sheath.
Put your sword into its sheath.
Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?
Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? I come in fulfillment of the promise to my son Adam. I must undergo this because I promised him. I promised him that I was going to die for him, that I was going to put on the flesh of his seed, and I was going to come and die for him, and I was going to go and deliver him from that very darkness that he hated. Come on, read.
Then the company of soldiers and the commander and the officers of the Yahudim seized Yahusha and bound him, and they led him away to Canaan first, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. Now Caiaphas was the one who gave counsel to the Yahudim that it was better that one man should die for the people. And Shimon Kapha followed Yahusha with another taught one, and that taught one was known to the high priest, and went with Yahusha into the courtyard of the high priest. But Kapha was standing outside at the door. So the other taught one who was known to the high priest went out and spoke to her, who kept the door, and brought Kapha in. Then the servant girl who kept the door said to Kapha, are you also one of this man's taught ones? He said, I am not. And the servants and the officers who had made a fire of coals stood there, because it was cold, and they warmed themselves. And Kapha was standing with them and warming himself. Then the high priest asked Yahusha about his taught ones and his teachings. Yahusha answered him, I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in the congregation and in the Kadush place, where the Yahudim always met, and I spoke no word in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I said to them. See, they know what I said. And when he had said this, one of the officers who stood by slapped Yahusha in the face, saying, do you answer the high priest this way? Yahusha answered him, if I have spoken evilly, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why do you strike me? Then Canaan sent him bound to the high priest Caiaphas. And Shimon Kapha was standing and warming himself. Then they said to him, are you also one of his taught ones? He denied it and said, I am not. One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of the one whose ear Kapha cut off, said, did I not see you in the garden with him? Then Kapha immediately denied it, and immediately a cock crowed. Then they led Yahusha from Caiaphas to the place, and it was early, and they themselves did not go into the place, a palace, lest they should be defiled, but they might eat the Pasakh. Pilate therefore came out.
But that they may eat the Pasakh. So, contrary to some's belief, the Pasakh hadn't taken place when the Master's Supper had come. That wasn't the Pasakh meal. You'll find this in the 13th chapter of John. It couldn't have taken place because he is the Pasakh lamb. So Pasakh at this point had not taken place yet. Come on, read, little one.
Pilate therefore came out to them and said, what accusation do you bring against this man? They answered and said to him, if he were not an evildoer, would we not have delivered him up to you? Then Pilate said to them, you take him and judge him according to your law. The Yahudim said to him, it is not right for us to put anyone to death, in order that the word of Yahusha might be filled, which he spoke, signifying by what death he was about to die. Then Pilate went back into the palace and called Yahusha and said to him, are you the sovereign of the Yahudim? Yahusha answered him, do you say this from yourself, or do others talk to you about me? Pilate answered, am I a Yahudi? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What did you do? Yahusha answered, my reign is not of this world. If my reign was of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Yahudim. But now my reign is not from here. Then Pilate said to him, you are a sovereign then. Yahusha answered, you say it, because I am a sovereign. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Pilate said to him, what is the truth? And when he said this, he went out again to the Yahudim and said to them, I find no guilt in him, but you have a habit that I shall release someone to you at the Pasakh. Do you wish then that I release to you the sovereign of the Yahudim? Then they all shouted again, saying, not this one, but Barabbas. And Barabbas was a robber. That was it.
Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. Chapter 19. Before we move to chapter 19, for those of you on YouTube, the Zoom family, I pray you already know this, but I'm not teaching some Christian doctrine here. When I say that we no longer have to go to that place of darkness, but that we go to the third Shamayim called paradise. Listen, this is not some Christian doctrine that we all go to heaven. The earth is our home, everlasting. The earth was made for us, and the earth was not, and his word shall not return void. The earth is our home, and that's going to be a new earth and a new heaven, and we're going to dwell on earth with our master, with our sovereign forever. But we no longer, as it is in this flesh, when we die, have to go to that place of darkness, because a price has been paid, and he has delivered us from that darkness into his marvelous light. And so when we die, we do not go to darkness. We are transitioned into light, provided that we are walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. Come on, chapter 19, little one. Let's go.
Then therefore Pilate took Yahusha and flogged him, and the soldiers plaited a crown of thorns and placed it on his head, and they put a purple robe on him, and came to him and said, Greetings, sovereign of the Yahudim. And they slapped him in the face. And Pilate went outside again and said to them, See, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no guilt in him. Then Yahusha came outside wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said to them, See the man. So when the chief priests and the officers saw him, they shouted, saying, Impale, impale. Pilate said to them, You take him and impale him, for I find no guilt in him. The Yahudim answered him, We have a law, and according to our law he ought to die, for he has made himself the son of Elohim. So when Pilate heard this word, he was more afraid and went back into the palace and asked Yahusha, Where are you from? But Yahusha gave him no answer. Then Pilate said to him, Do you not speak to me? Do you not know that I possess authority to impale you and possess authority to release you? Yahusha answered, You would possess no authority against me if it were not given you from above. Because of this, he who delivered me to you has greater sin or crime. From then on, Pilate was seeking to release him, but the Yahudim shouted, saying, If you release this one, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a sovereign does speak against Caesar. Therefore, when Pilate heard these words, he brought Yahusha out and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in Hebrew called Gabbatha. And it was the preparation day of the Pasakh week, and about the 6th hour. And he said to the Yahudim, See your sovereign. But they shouted, Away, away, impale him. Pilate said to them, Shall I impale your sovereign? The chief priests answered, We have no sovereign except Caesar. At that time, then he delivered him to them to be impaled, and they took Yahusha and led him away. And bearing his stake, he went out to the so-called place of the skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they impaled him, and the two others with him, one on this side and one on that side, and Yahusha in the middle. And Pilate wrote a title too and put it on the stake, and it was written, Yahusha of Nazareth, the sovereign of the Yahudim. Many of the Yahudim therefore read this title, for the place where Yahusha was impaled was near the city. And it was written in Hebrew, in Greek, in Roman. So the chief priest of the Yahudim said to Pilate, Do not write the sovereign of the Yahudim. But he said, I am the sovereign of the Yahudim. Pilate answered, What I have written, I have written. Then the soldiers, when they had impaled you, took his outer garments, Yahusha, and made 4 parts, to each soldier a part, and the inner garment. But the inner garment was without seam, woven from the top in one piece. So they said to each other, Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, in order that the scripture might be fulfilled, which says, They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. The soldiers therefore indeed did this, and by the stake of Yahusha stood his mother and his mother's sister Mariam, the wife of Caiaphas, and Mariam from Magdala. Then Yahusha, seeing his mother and the taught one whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, Woman, see your son. Then to the taught one he said, See your mother. And from that hour that taught one took her to his own home. After this, Yahusha, knowing that all had been accomplished in order that the scripture might be accomplished, said, I thirst. A bowl of sour wine stood there, and they filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on hyssop and held it to his mouth. So when Yahusha took the sour wine, he said, "It has been accomplished." And bowing his head, he gave up his root. Therefore, since it was the preparation day, that the body should not remain on the stake on the Shabbat.
This is the preparation day of the first day of unleavened bread. As the Pasakh lamb, he was slaughtered on the Pasakh day in fulfillment of the scriptures, in fulfillment of the Torah. He came in the volume of the book to the nations. To the nations, he came in the volume of the book. He was offered in accordance with Torah. There is no redemption of mankind outside of Torah. His offering was in accordance with Torah. You cannot be redeemed outside of Torah. There is no pathway to be redeemed outside of Torah. And within Torah, with respect to the Pasakh story, what we see being enacted is the story of the redemption of mankind, a promise made to a firstborn son, Adam, that he was going to come and put on flesh and deliver him from the reign of darkness and bring him back into the marvelous light that he loved, delivering him from the darkness that he hated. He came in the volume of the book. He is the living Torah. His offering was in accordance with Torah in every way. To the nations, you cannot be redeemed outside of Torah. You cannot be redeemed outside of Torah. You must teshuvah. You must repent. You must turn from darkness to light, which is Torah. You must receive his Ruach HaKadosh and be engrafted into the nation of Yahshua, which is the representation of the remnant of mankind of Adam, in whom the promise was given to. The promise is to no one else. Yahshua represents the remnant of mankind. That's why the promise was given to Yahshua. There is no promise given to anyone else. This promise, the promise that he made to Adam, and that is to deliver him from death to life, from darkness to light, from leaven to unleavened. This is the promise that he gave to his son Adam, and that we see being fulfilled and being enacted in the nation of Yahshua. Read, little one.
For that Shabbat was a high one. The Yahudim asked Pilate to have their legs broken.
That Shabbat is the next Shabbat, which is the first day of unleavened bread. And they asked to have his legs broken because they wanted to partake of that high Shabbat, and they wanted to partake of the Pasakh, which was to come that evening. And this is why there was darkness over the land, so that Torah was being fulfilled in every way, and that the lamb was slaughtered at evening. And so that they could partake of the slaughtering at evening, they wanted to break his legs so as to cause him to die more quickly, so as to take him down so that they would not be defiled, in order that they could partake of the Pasakh. Isn't that an oxymoron? Their Pasakh is hanging there on the stake, but they want to break his leg to take him down so that they could partake of a lamb. My. And so many are still caught up in the letter, not understanding that the letter is going to kill you, but only the Ruach can give you life. Come on, read, little one.
And that they be taken away. Therefore the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the others who was impaled with him. But when they came to Yahusha and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers... And
they did not break his legs in fulfillment of the Torah. In Exodus chapter 12, to not break any of its bones. He came in the volume of the book and died in accordance with Torah. He kept his promise to his son. Come on, read, little one.
But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and instantly blood and water came out.
The same blood and water that came out of Adam's side, in whom he came to die as his firstborn, who was a representation, who by extension is Yahshua. Come on, read, little one.
And he who has seen has witnessed, and his witness is true. And he knows that he is speaking the truth, in order that you might believe. For this took place in order for the scripture to be filled. Now one of his bones shall be broken. In
accordance with the Torah. And that blood and water coming out of his side is a representation of Ruach. It is a representation of Ruach. The dam, the blood, is... It represents Ruach, and we know that the water, that the living water, it too represents Ruach. Come on, read, little one.
And again, another scripture says, they shall look on him whom they pierced. And after this, Yahusuf of Ramath Yaim, being a taught one of Yahusha, but secretly for fear of the Yahudim, asked Pilate that he might take the body of Yahusha. And Pilate gave permission. Therefore he came and took the body of Yahusha. And Nakdamun, who at first came to Yahusha by night, also came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds. When they took the body of Yahusha and bound it in linen wrappings with the spices, as was the habit of the Yahudim for burial. And at that place where he was impaled there was a garden, and in the garden a fresh tomb in which no one had yet been laid. There then, because of preparation day of the Yahudim, they laid Yahusha, because the tomb was near.
Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. He offered himself in accordance with the Torah and in accordance with his promise that he made to Adam. He came, he told him he was going to die and suffer on the 4th day of the week. Passover is always on the 4th day of the week. The first day of unleavened bread is always on the 5th day of the week on his fixed calendar. He was in the grave 3 days and 3 nights, the 4th day, 5th day, and 6th day. And he rose on the Shabbat day. He rose on the Shabbat day. And in the first resurrection, they too, whom rise in the first resurrection, will also rise on the Shabbat day. Will also rise on the Shabbat day. So he came to offer himself in the fulfillment of the promise that he made to his firstborn son Adam. He kept his promise to deliver him from darkness and bring him into his marvelous light. And when we receive his Ruach, when we receive the water, when we receive the Dam, when we receive his Ruach, the same Dam that was posted on the doorpost, we too at that point become transitioned. We are now transitioned from darkness to light, from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of light. Because at that point we're no longer under any obligation to obey darkness, to obey the kingdom of darkness, because we have his Torah written upon our hearts. And now we are now obligated. We are now driven. We are now driven to walk in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. Rounding this out, we're going to read now Revelation 12. We're going to read Revelation 12, and we're going to see how this impacts us for today, this generation. Come on, read, little one. Okay. Revelation 12.
And a great sign was seen in the heaven, a woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign was seen in the heaven, and see a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his head. And his tail draws 1/3 of the stars of the heaven, and throws them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she bore a male child, who was to shepherd all nations with the rod of iron. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has been...
And the woman, who is Yasha'al, who is the remnant within the remnant, who are the ones who have been now transitioned from darkness to light, and who are walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth all the time. All the time. These are perfect ones. These are perfect ones, walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth all the time. This is Yasha'al now, the remnant within the remnant, being drawn into the wilderness. Come on, read.
Where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished.
Yes.
There 1,260 days.
3.5 years, read.
And there came to be fighting in the heaven. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought. But they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the heaven any longer. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old called the devil and Hashatan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in the heavens, now has come the deliverance and the power and the reign of our Elohim, and the authority of his Mashiach, for the accuser of our brothers who accused them before our Elohim day and night has been thrown down.
Has been thrown down to the earth. The reign of darkness now has come to the earth. Come on, read.
And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness, and they did not love their lives to death. Because of this rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you having great wrath,
Because the devil has come down to you having great wrath.
knowing that he has little time.
He has 3.5 years. Come on.
And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth,
And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth,
he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child.
he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child.
And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle
Uh-huh.
to fly into the wilderness,
To fly into the
place
wilderness to a place.
where she is nourished
Mm-hmm.
for a time and a half a time
Uh-huh.
from the presence of the serpent.
Uh-huh.
And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river.
So one of these Passovers, those who are already, see, this isn't about now being transitioned from darkness to light. He's already died and shed his dawn. This is for those who now have been transitioned from darkness to light and who are walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. And so one of these Passovers, he's coming to get his children. And not unlike the first time when he came to get his children, Pharaoh is going to chase them into the wilderness. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Pharaoh is going to chase them into the wilderness. Come on, read.
The serpent spewed water like a river after the woman to cause her to be swept away by the river.
The same time when the Red Sea split. When Yahuwah caused the Red Sea to split, or the Sea of Reeds to split, Hashatan's plan was to cause them to be trapped there, not knowing that Abba was going to split the sea and allow them to go through them. And allow them to walk through on dry land. He is spewing out water here, and what happens, little one? There's nothing new under the sun. Come on.
And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up his mouth and swallowed up the river, which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman.
And the dragon was enraged, just like he was the first time, when the Red Sea closed over all his army and killed over 1 million men. He was enraged that time too, and he's going to be enraged again. He's going to be enraged again, because these are the children of light in whom he has no power. Come on, read.
And he went to fight with the remnant of her seed.
Oh, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed. You see, these are the ones that have not been transitioned from darkness to light, who do not understand Passover is for all mankind, and have not received the sign of the promise, a circumcised heart, whereby then being transitioned from the reign of darkness into his marvelous light. And because you refuse the dawn, because you refuse the circumcision of the heart, after he cannot overcome the children of light who have been transitioned one Passover, he's then coming to make war against the remnant of a seed. And when you read chapter 13 of Revelation, it then begins to speak of the beast reign. It begins to speak of the beast reign because he is going to occupy the beast. He is the power behind the beast, and this is the reign of Pharaoh that is going to be enacted for 3.5 years, and the reign of darkness is coming upon the earth again. And if Yahuwah does not shorten those days, no flesh will remain. But to those who understand this Passover story and understand the great price that has been paid, and who have a circumcised heart, who have the ruach of Yahuwah dwelling in them, and who are walking in light and no longer walking in darkness, who are turning their backs to darkness and who are walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth. They are called to the wilderness here. They're called to the wilderness. Here's something else that you need to know. After Passover comes a feast called first fruit, Ha Bakarim, called first fruit. Now many believe that Yahusha fulfilled first fruit. No, he partially fulfilled first fruit. You see, first fruit is a shadow of the remnant within the remnant being first fruits before their Elohim. It's there in the text. Read Revelation 14 verses 1 through 5. It's there. Being first fruit to their Elohim, being brought to Mount Zion. This is a shadow of the remnant within the remnant of those who have been sealed by the Dam, who have been sealed by the Ruach, who have been brought out of darkness into his marvelous light, and who are walking in light, forsaking darkness, understanding the great price that has been paid to draw us out of darkness into its marvelous light. There's another festival after first fruit 50 days later. It is also called first fruit. Yes, it is. It is also called Pentecost and Shavuot and the Feast of Weeks. But this first fruit is reminiscent of a wheat festival. It is a symbolic or a shadow of the wheat being gathered into the barn. It is a shadow of the wedding feast. It is a shadow of the first resurrection, of the first fruit resurrection, when the rest of the house of YAHUAH is gathered and brought back into the land. But there's a first fruit following Passover, in which those who are involved in this first fruit are brought to Mount Zion. And this follows Passover. And these are those who are now, who have been sealed by the Dam and by the Ruach and have a circumcised heart, and who are walking in the unleavened path of sincerity and truth now, who are walking in light now. And if you're walking in light now, we're not reserved for wrath. We're not reserved for darkness, because we're not children of darkness. We're children of light. Come on, finish that out, little one.
Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach.
So he went and he turned and he made war against the remnant of a seed. Those guarding the commands of Yahuwah and having the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Thank you, Master, for this word.
Yes,
I pray that once again that this word is not falling upon deaf ears, but that this word is falling upon fertile soil. It is my prayer that your word is not falling void to the earth, but that it is accomplishing that which you have sent it forth to do.
Yes.
It is my prayer that this word is not falling by the wayside, and it is not falling on stony ground, that it is not falling amongst thorns, but that indeed it is falling on fertile soil. It is falling upon a circumcised heart, so that your Ruach will come and water that word and water that seed, so that it grows up to become a mighty tree, producing the fruit that leads to everlasting life, causing the hearer of this word to forsake darkness and to turn to your marvelous light, and to walk in the unleavened path, which is light of sincerity and truth, consistently being blameless before you, being perfect as you are perfect. Let your will be done, Master, on earth as it is in heaven. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, so be it.
So be it.
To those of you on YouTube who are going to hear this later on, I pray that you've been edified. I pray that you've been encouraged. I pray that you have been convicted. I pray that as you gather with us, that you're continuing to grow, and that the seed that is planted is being planted in fertile soil, that it is growing, and that it is growing to become a mighty tree, producing the fruit that leads to everlasting life. Until the next time we gather, Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor unto you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the children of YAHUAH, and I myself shall barak them. So be it, so be it, so be it.